playing.
Does that work?
Just
Mortal Kombat
compares.
fans.
I have a,
Okay.
I have a Metal Combat glove.
I don't think that counts.
I have a
That's not a
stick.
sword.
Trajan has Trajan.
I have soup.
I have infinite
Trajan
health.
cannot be hit.
Okay,
Oh,
so we're
turn
still
off your
waiting on
fucking-
Sheen.
Hey, Jimmy's here.
Turn off your
He's
fucking
going to join
cheat
at some
codes.
point. We're just going to start. No, we're going to start without him anyway. So what tonight is, in case you don't know, I'm out of character. Am I? Yeah, I'm out of character.
Yes.
Tonight's going to be casual. We're going to go through the world of the Prince. That's my latest tour story that launched. We're going to go through the world, and we're going to do like a director's commentary, a tour guide's commentary. So I'm going to talk about the creation of the world and the story as we go through. Questions are totally welcome. Just enter at any pause or any question point to ask your questions, or write them down if you're not sure that you remember them, and I will try to answer every question possible. But tonight is really about insight into the world building and tour writing process. So it's very much pull back the curtains, here's how we did everything. That's what tonight is. I think we have 2 or 3 people recording at the moment, so we should have a pretty good record of this. If you haven't seen The Prince, tonight will potentially spoil everything. So it's up to you whether you stay. However, if you haven't seen The Prince, you come tonight, you see everything, and then you do see The Prince, you may also find that you might get a greater appreciation for the story by seeing this first. So that's really up to you whether you want to engage in that or not.
The recordings are still on YouTube of The Prince, if you guys want to watch it too. So, beforehand.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
The recordings will be on the Discord, on people's YouTubes. We'll make them accessible for everyone. So, without further ado, feel free to send me a friend request if you're not friends already, in case you need to get back to the world for any reason.
You will be my friend.
I'm going to drop a portal for everyone. Not you.
I said nothing.
man, imagine
Amazing
that.
thing.
Cringe.
And let's make a portal
Burn.
for you guys.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
Diarma's
Time.
like right over there for some reason. Hold up.
Does this even need to be private?
Wow.
Let's make it Friends Plus. You know what?
Why not?
Woo!
The more the merrier,
Let's
right?
make it Friends Plus.
Friends plus.
Yep,
have a good
it's very
time.
casual tonight.
Super
I know my mic kind of sucks. This is a Quest 2 headset. Turn me up if you haven't already, because tonight is so casual. People may be talking in small groups around. So make sure that I'm at a good volume for you already. I'm going to put the portal over here.
Oh wow, that's a different spot.
Is it stabilized? Probably. Oh, that's the wrong
Wait,
way.
wait.
Back to the rendezvous.
Trajan.
Trajan.
Y'all really go to the
go in.
rendezvous
So we were gonna say, yeah, we're
Let
gonna
me
start
try
the
that again.
rendezvous like we always
I
start.
Yeah, again.
Let's
This is the
enter
second
again.
time.
Okay, guys. You enter portal A or portal B?
Let's do Portal B, please.
Okay.
No, see,
We're going
we enter the
Let's
portal
go.
less
Alright.
traveled by. That's what we do. We enter the portal less
Not
traveled
regular
by.
tours today, boy.
So what's happening?
Alright. Do that.
No.
Actually, that's a good question. Do we need to turn tour mode off this time?
That's a good question, actually.
I mean, we'll
Well,
find
it's
out.
crazy when he
Because
cuts
that
it
will
out.
unlock all of them, right? That doesn't unlock all the doors, so...
I don't know. It's a good question.
Mr. Trajan.
Yeah, tonight
Should we
is
be in
the
tour mode?
commentary about the world
Uh,
and
In the
Yes.
world? No. No.
No.
Turn off torrent. Oh, all right.
I might be here for
Explore
Well, well, well.
Haha.
Explore mode.
Doesn't really matter tonight, so may as well go explore mode. So, hit this button, guys. Get it green. We're using explore mode, a green button. I'll just give everyone a few more minutes to load in. I need to
Hello,
turn on
Silent.
avatars. No
That head
offense.
looks familiar.
Dang.
Yep, it probably does.
Imagine.
That's probably just me.
My computer isn't that great.
This looks like it
I
reminds
need
me of a character.
Well, I have another outfit.
I didn't get a head count of the last world. What are we at? 23?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the VRTravellers avatar.
Oh, that's a
We should
Voroid?
have. The armament
used to
was
be, it
like
no
back
longer
there
is.
still AFK, so he probably will be coming along soon.
Yours is Voroid? That's a Voroid?
Having V-Roid
Bull
avatar
crap.
is kind of
Bull.
cringe.
I did not know that. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Hey, you gotta start
Wait,
somewhere.
how do you
edit your face. No, I know. This
Wow.
is a V-Roid
That's a-
avatar. This is a
I won't
V-Roid
section to the other one because this other one's worse.
That makes sense. That's actually really good.
Got some...
gradient.
I'm gonna guess you also retextured the whole thing as well. Nice.
Yeah, all
Hold
the
on.
textures I did. The hair
I'm
is
gonna pretend
probably
I'm not
some
seeing
base
that.
texture, but it's gone through a lot of modification
Exactly.
pieces, yeah.
Big ol'
Yeah,
snip.
yeah.
I never would have been able to
Wait,
tell.
hold on,
Alright.
grab the nose, grab the nose.
Yeah.
Give
Most
me the
people
nose.
can't, especially
Like,
because there's no
Ozu.
telltale highlight on the bottom
Give me your nose.
lip. What is that nose?
That's- Yeah.
Jesus.
Why?
Can that not
That's
be
too powerful
posed?
for you
Can
to
your
talk
nose
about.
not be posed? Your no
No.
What? You can't pose your...
No. Oh, but there's
What the
I
hell?
refuse to pose my. I
Why
refuse
make
to
it
pose my nose, but my nose is still too powerful.
Why are you human?
Alright, guys,
Ladies.
we're gonna play a game called
This is the
Limbo.
first time. This is the first time ever seeing Captain Panda out of character.
I
What?
know.
No, this is.
Wait, Panda's in
No.
character?
That's in character
What?
though. That's one
I
of
was
Captain
never in
Panda's
character. This is one of my
Oh
OCs.
no, well never mind.
Oh.
This is just
Yeah.
one
Hey,
of
guys.
my many OCs.
Yeah.
Guys, hold up, guys, hold
Ladies.
on, guys. We're going to, everyone, we're gonna play a game called Limbo.
Oh my god.
Calm
I don't
down.
know what's the
Limbo.
world though.
How low
The
can
story.
you go?
Okay.
How low can you go?
Okay.
That is low.
Trade Jim, how low can you go?
I'm not flexible.
How low
We're
can you
starting.
go?
That's how low I can go. Guys,
Oh.
if you haven't already, come over here and turn on explore mode. Get this button green. If it's orange, get it green because we're going to use explore mode. We will be sticking together. I mean, you're free to go look through the world yourself, but obviously if you do that, you won't hear any
A
commentary.
good example of what,
So-
for the technical aspects of what you did with me was a good tour, I think. Don't you agree?
What I did with you?
When you you showed me the aspects of how certain objects
I must be
and
bouncing.
assets were missing and how you pieced it together and the lighting and the details. And all
Yeah,
that.
that's going to be the
And the-
world building aspect that I discuss. If you think there's something interesting that I'm missing, bring it up when we're in the relevant map, and
Sure.
I'll mention it. So if everyone has explore mode on, we will be going over there in a second. But first, we have this map to talk about. This map that we're in now is in the tour, and it's a part of the story, but it's pretty subtle. So in the neutral ending, we destroy the town of Felden, and the prince basically he fully internalizes. He goes to a place in his head because the place, everything outside his head is just horrible. So he creates his own little sort of mental
Headspace.
retreat in his mind, and it is based on this map, but the floor is gone and it's opened to like a fiery pit. Both that map and this map are based on in the story they are Lake Fort. We are standing on Lake Fort.
Oh.
There's a couple reasons for this. One is because, like it says in the story, Lake Fort is what started it all. The prince had a vision that Lake Fort would be destroyed because he was so worried about the war with Dacia, or a impending war with Dacia. But in envisioning it, he actually made it happen because, as you know if you've seen the story, his visions have the power to alter reality, as is often the case with our protagonists. So he accidentally destroyed Lakeford by envisioning the destruction of Lakeford, and the Dacians thought that that the kingdom that we start in, can't remember its name, they thought that they did that intentionally as an act of war, and both sides blamed each other, but it actually was an accident. So this tower that we stand on, you can see the lake just outside. There's waves out there, and there's the rain that caused the storm that sunk the tower. So we are standing on the tower that started it all.
Damn.
Wow.
I never saw that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I really wanted in this world, I didn't want there to be any spaces that we enter that are not actually a part of the story. So even the spawn is a part of the story. There's no maps that just sort of exist for the sake of it in this story. I'm going to probably pause at the end of every section before we move on, if there are any questions. So before we go on to the actual start, are there any questions? Yell out, because I have avatars off. I can't really tell who's doing what. Or like come up in my face or something if you have a question.
I think Ether has a question.
Yeah. What's up?
What made you choose the explore mode versus tour mode? Well, why that
Because
decision?
Tour mode is really there just to stop people from accidentally going ahead and possibly breaking. It's hard to break this world, but there are a couple of points you can do it. So tour world is really a precaution against that.
Gotcha.
Explore mode is because Nick's here to help people.
Well.
Sheen is going to be here to help people. They're going to bring 3 people through, make sure explore world's on, so they can just stream through the world without any obstacles. So it's really just.
Does that allow certain quests to be played as well? Say the forest.
We haven't really tested trying to do the tour itself in explore mode. I dare say it's something we'll probably break, but
Wouldn't surprise
explore
me.
mode is
That
really
one
just for
caused trouble.
going from map to map yourself.
Understandable.
Although I don't think explore mode gives you access to the alternate endings, so I would be taking you to that manually either way. Any more questions?
What assets do you use for?
Good question. These assets, there's credit over on the board there, but the user known as Tailed helped me get these assets from a PS1 JRPG called Vagrant Story, which isn't very well known. I love the dark, gritty atmosphere of the game, and it really fit the tone of the story. So he helped me get the assets from Vagrant Story and bring these in. They went through a lot of editing, as I will explain as we go through. I spent hundreds of hours hand touching up all the assets for this world, as we'll say. But good question.
On the
Fred's
note
over
of
there,
nothing
if
being
you're
out of
curious
the
about anything
world,
like that.
where is the icon?
Yeah.
Like, the logo, if it's any location meant to be in world.
The logo? The compass?
I think he means the billboard. Like, where's this picture from?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah,
This
where's
actual
where's the
place?
pictures? Yeah.
That's a good question. This scene is also where we're standing, so that fort is Lakeford. The brothers don't reach Lakeford in the story, so the scene doesn't physically occur like this. But up there is Lakeford, destroyed, and the storm that caused it, and then the brothers at the bottom kind of superimposed into like a similar backdrop. And there's also the ocean, which is pretty iconic to the start of the story, because all the visions are preceded by like a watery sort of ambience, which we'll talk about in the next map as well. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is because there's a strong link between water and trauma with the prince, because he was part of a fleet with his father, the king, and they were sailing to Laodicea, which I don't think is ever mentioned in the story, but they were going to Laodicea.
It is. The Laodicean pendant.
It was. I mean, the fact that they were going to Laodicea when the fleet drowned. I don't think that was ever
that
mentioned
part.
in the story.
No,
Yeah.
not that part.
The prince was so worried that a storm would happen that he made a storm happen. He sunk the fleet. It killed everybody but him. Only he survived because
Dang.
destiny, whatever you want to call it. And there's that has a lot of trauma and guilt, and all his visions have a water association from that point in time. And also from the very start, people could hear the ocean when he was born. So there's like a link between ocean and his powers, which also actually does tie into other stories as well. Like you'll hear Sheen say ocean distortion in the pilot and such. I can't really talk about that stuff, but there are links everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions before we go to the next map? Cool. All right. Over here, click on this blue bubble, and we'll go to the first map. If you're late, explore mode is on.
Aw. I was expecting the cool intro.
We skipped the intro.
Man.
Victor.
You
I'm
mashed
gonna
the A
wait for
button.
Nick to get here since he is the actively group at the moment. Unless he's already snuck through.
Can I ask a question while we wait, Trajan?
Yeah, what's up?
Just out of curiosity for like the explore mode, since we skipped the intro in explore mode, is there no way to actually see it in explore mode?
No, there isn't a way to see it in explore mode. Reason being, there's no way to get out of it in explore mode because I manually do that with. I have controls here that you guys can't see, and I use these. Like over here, I have a button to like play the underwater sound effect. It's like if I hit that, you'll start hearing underwater sounds. Fade out the background, start the credit sequence, blah blah blah. I have all that stuff here. You guys obviously don't have access to it, so it skips it.
And that's
by the way,
the whitelisting
if you do want the
feature.
world music, turn up world music. If you want that sort of
Hear the
immersion
audio.
to help you with this.
Huh? While we're waiting on everyone, if there's still people we're waiting on, I've got a question.
Yeah, what's
I
up?
just noticed that the rain over here is actually pixelated too. How in the world did you manage that? It's actually really nicely detailed, yet still pixelating all that.
I'm almost embarrassed to say how long I spent
Glitter.
fixing up this room, and we spend so little time on it in the story. But I'll talk about as many details in this world as you guys want.
You really like.
So I'll talk
the
about
effect
the
there's
of-
construction of this
Nick.
world after we
Do you hate
Yes,
worlds?
yes.
go through.
I have an
Hello,
overview
everyone's through?
questions. Yep, all good.
Perfect. Okay, so as you may know, if you've been on the tour, when we first come through normally on a tour, we're in like a water bubble. That water bubble was actually going to be used for every vision in the tour. Like the map would disappear, you'd be suspended in like a big water bubble. Of course the map wouldn't be going anywhere, the mesh would just turn off. That was originally how all the visions were going to work. After some testing, I found that being in VR, it's disorienting having the floor removed from you, so we actually decided against that. And, well, we being I decided against that, and we just went with a
Can I
huge
say
change
that it
instead.
would make the transition a bit slow? So like it would slow down things quite a bit. So you have to wait constantly for like in and out for the transition. It's good to like have it played once. That's like a general opening and whatnot, right?
I could speed it up though.
For the
I mean,
opening
we
or for
got-
the visions?
The visions. Because like if you have to transition from dark and open again, or is it like...
Oh, I see. Yeah, that
'Cause,
would
like,
add time
the-
because you're instead of just transitioning
Yeah,
to blue.
you're just
and from
waiting
blue,
there
you're
for
transitioning
darkness to come
dark.
about you.
Yeah, it would take more time. Yeah, that's true.
Waiting for the darkness
Yeah.
to give way to the vision, and then waiting for the vision to give way to darkness, to then give way back
Exactly.
to the room.
Because all the like I can fade it
Takes
to black
a while.
right now to you guys, and
Yeah,
you guys are
that's
slowly
what the
going blind
illusion
right
does,
now.
so that you
That's
don't
just a control.
notice the geometry turning off and then swapping
Yeah,
over.
and then I can just fade it back again. That's just post-processing. That's all that is. Nick made a really cool system to manipulate
That's really
post-processing
nice.
through a whole bunch of stuff.
Cool.
Nick's just
so-
a Chad world creator.
It's just a god. That's really it's really
Yeah, it's really good.
He never ceases to amaze.
You can't convince me otherwise.
So this map, if you've played Vagrant Story, which almost no one has, you may recognize it as one of the first like opening maps in one of the early cutscenes. You recognize it. I had to build that wall and make that door. I had to manipulate a lot because it's the kind of game where if there is no because it's so early on the PS1, if a face of a mesh is never seen, it doesn't exist. So I had to build like this whole half of the bed, a whole bunch of stuff. I had to build some things up there. This art, beautiful art, commissioned by Dolly or Plummels, whichever one you know her as, actually depicts the family. So we have the queen, the mother, wearing the crown that you can see, and we have the younger and older brothers. The younger one being, of course, the main one that we start with, and the father, whose face is completely lost in obscurity, symbolizing his passing. He's dead, he's gone, so he's no longer in the picture, so we can't see him. It's very rare that we'll show the faces of characters in the story.
Little
I let
fun
this one
fact.
slide because you don't see them in their current age. Yeah.
In Vagrant Story, this right here is also a portrait
That's actually
of
really
the
cool.
family in the story.
It is, yes. In Vagrant Story, that is a portrait. I didn't mention it in the dialogue of the tour because I want people to just sort of notice it and think about it themselves, and it was sort of a bit of a reward from looking around. We have so I can talk about the raindrops.
Environmental
'cause
storytelling.
Yes,
stuff
the
outside.
best way to use it.
You
I have a feeling
notice
it's a
there
separate
are
message
raindrops on the
from
window. There are also raindrops falling outside. I think,
Yeah.
or did I get rid of that?
No, you got rid of it.
No, there are no
I can't see it.
particles out there.
You just put the
But you would have me
Wyoming
fooled.
glitter effect on it, didn't you? Or is it something else?
There is glitter, but there is also a texture which is sliding down, which has
sliding
two
texture.
speeds of vertical scrolling UV mapping that distort it to different degrees. And because the texture is low resolution, it looks pixelated, and that's really just because it's a low resolution texture. There were raindrops falling outside, and you can see the city out there as well. It's just a backdrop which is found in game.
Occam's razor. The best solution is usually the simplest.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems like a very
Pixelated because
complex
it's pixelated.
thing.
Yeah, I
to
spent a
have, like,
while to get
a
it
double
looking
UV.
like this.
It would
Yeah.
take a while to get it done, but it makes it work.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
convincing.
The double
pixelated
UV
rain
system.
sliding down.
Yeah. Also, because of the way that a lot of older games make their meshes, sometimes the normals are flipped to what you would want them to be. So some of these doors, the textures were actually on this side, so you touch them and you just shoot through because the collision's on the other side. So there was a lot of manually going around and making sure that that didn't happen in all
Yes,
these
I
maps as well.
understand. That is the biggest pain in the butt.
Yeah.
As someone who's
people
written
who
maps
in
for
Blast
video
as
games
well.
as well, I know how you feel, man.
Yeah, that was really fun. I think there's still... Yeah, I think there's still a spot over by the door where you can shoot through the wall accidentally, but I mean, I don't.
Everyone immediately goes to
Somebody
try.
want to shoot through the wall into the wall for us?
Also, I'm pretty sure.
There's another one in a later scene.
Yes.
Yeah, there's probably
Also
couple.
a door.
Another
Go
thing to note
figure.
about this world. Yeah. So, aside from direct light sources, for example, there's a light coming in that's casting a dynamic shadow on the floor here, so you can see the outlines of the windows and the light coming in and stuff like that. and the light
Dynamic
sources
lighting.
here. Aside from those,
Unity lights.
there's a lot of vertex lighting used in this map. And if you don't know, vertex lighting is where you change like a color value of a single vertex point, and it blends into other vertex points. So you can choose ones in the shadow and make it dark, and it will blend sort of lighter in. There's a lot of that used in these maps, and that's how like the sides of the walls, like where everything meets, it's sort of an illusion of occlusion culling, where it's darker in the joins. There's tons of that used, and I really like
Ambient
the
occlusion.
effect that it has. Ambient occlusion, that's the word. Any more questions about this area, this scene, before we move on?
Nope.
Nice.
At least not from me.
Like little animated fire.
Honestly, it's good.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Love the
Those,
little
I don't remember where I got
Fire.
those candles from. I think it may be from Chrono Trigger, that fire animation.
Looks similar, yeah.
And I placed them and lit them all.
There's
Yeah.
Z fighting though. Again, dang aim.
Z
A
fighting?
bit of
There's a bit of Z fighting on the
Oh
top.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there's a
Yeah.
ton of Z fighting. Good lord.
In the
Yeah,
candles?
so you might have a duplicate of
Oh,
the
yeah.
optic in
Look
there.
look from above.
That's a
Just like
Radeon
around,
versus
there's Z
GeForce
fighting
thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it
Must
either.
be
Me and
graphics card.
Trajan have the
Oh.
same
I
card.
don't see any Z fighting.
I was gonna say, come
Yeah,
up here from
you guys
where we
get
are,
better
you can
graphics
see
cards.
two, like, lines there.
Boy, we are on
Might be good
Nvidia.
to
You
just-
get a better
Yeah.
graphics card. Your AMD using.
Yours clearly isn't
Oh.
working properly. Okay.
I genuinely
let's-
suspect there might be a second version. Move on, Chad.
Yes, onwards.
Leave. Actually, stop here. So it's going straight.
Okay, now I need to find somewhere to sit again.
We usually just pass
Oh,
straight
yes,
through
wait.
this place without really thinking about
Yeah,
do.
we
There's actually a bunch to talk about
blast
here.
through here.
The statue looks destroyed.
Like, yeah, for one, this destroyed
It's
statue.
I believe the
Yes.
ambient track here is actually from Vagrant Story. Like in the wine cellar. I don't remember.
I can see why you'd think that. It's very similar. The ambient track here is from Secret of Evermore, which is an old game that I love. It's a terrible game, but I just love it for
Guilty pleasure.
Just
This
nice.
sucks. You should play it.
You realize how piece of shit it
Thanks,
is.
yeah. I'm not recommending it. If you play it, you probably won't like it, but I like it. So in this map
Hey,
here,
that's all that matters.
before I got my hands on it, there was no furniture, no rugs, no lights. It was pretty much just like an empty, dark, ruined area. This furniture I extracted from other maps, from the house maps, and I pulled them into here and arranged it so that it actually looked like it was lived in. The map texture, this texture is from... It might also be from Chrono Trigger, or is it from Second Insetsu? It might be Second Insetsu. Sprites from old games, I love them.
I
So
think this may be a
map
Chrono
was
Trigger.
empty and dark and sort of void of furniture, so I had to add all that stuff. Also, every door you see had to be added, like manually added. There are no doors except for like the town exteriors. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
as
that sounds like old games. Yep.
well. Yeah. In terms of lore here,
Yes, there's no
as
space
Ragnaros pointed out, the statue is destroyed. The head is actually right here, and there's pieces on that side as well. I kept that in because I wanted to have this sense of coming in here and seeing like a religious altar and being like, okay, the religion here is a little bit shaky, something's going on, there's some conflict here. Because normally in like a royal establishment, you wouldn't stand for this kind of defacement. So this, for anyone who looks up here and notices, is like, yeah, something's going on with the church in these parts. Something's not quite right. So it's a little bit of
Subtle detail
foreshadowing in
for
that
a
sense.
room that you just bolt through.
Yeah, we just come through
Yeah.
and just go right through.
Clever little bit of
I mean,
foreshadowing.
let's-
Come to think of it.
Let's.
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
actually really smart. Good.
Let's stop here. Ooh. I'm gonna go up here.
Nothing to say about this right now.
I have,
No, I'm
I have
gonna-
funny stairs.
The funny stairs. Yeah, because Vagrant Story is a game where it's sort of like a Final Fantasy Tactics esque game where there's a lot of like positioning and height sensitive combat, so you're trying to like find a good position to get like advantageous hits on your
Right.
opponent. So that's why the stairs are really funky. A lot of the terrain. Although I did tame a lot of it when I modified a lot of these maps. So in this map, again, we just passed straight through it. All the furniture and lighting and rugs and stuff I added to make it look lived in. I don't even think that half of that staircase was there. I had to add that in. These god rays, beautiful asset that Tailed gave me, so I make use of those a lot. And as you can see outside, it's nighttime. You'll also, you may notice, maybe you didn't notice, when we come through these maps from like palace room to palace room, the transition is instant, whereas in some maps the transition is a fade. That's done intentionally. When it's a fade, we're skipping maps. When it's instant, we're physically going from one room to the next. So it even tells you through the transitions how we're getting from map to map.
Yeah. It's emphasis on like the world positioning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So many subtle details that you just don't notice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
That's
spent
why
way
it's
too long on
important.
this map. All right, let's go.
Where you notice it when it's done poorly, but when it's done really well, it's kind of thing your brain just kind of will take in, but won't really acknowledge.
Let's take a closer look when we get
For lack
to
of
the
better
next
way
Exactly.
of saying
That's a
it.
perfect analogy.
It's unfortunate.
You notice when it's wrong, you don't notice when it's right.
Exactly,
Right.
and that's really unfortunate because
You get too
it's what makes the good details get missed until they're pointed out, and then you fully acknowledge and they're like,
That's
oh
true.
shit.
Yeah, that's why these events are fun, because it's my chance to kind of brag about my obsessive behavior, and it's your chance to get so much more insight and clues into everything. We'll just go straight through the next map. This is pretty much the same deal as all the other ones.
Fair. Ah, yes, now this one.
Now the good stuff.
This is this it. Let's go. Oh, pardon. Take it.
This map is a good example of a map that I had to change a lot. So there's actually usually much more furniture here. I think there was a some sort of cabinet that came across here that almost blocked it off, and I extracted it and put it in another room of the palace because I knew that there had to be a bunch of people standing around here, and I didn't want too cramped a space. Also, there is Z fighting in places like this, mostly because modifying these textures is like a nightmare, because I don't know, whoever here has used Unity, trying to do like fine detail in Unity is very fiddly. It doesn't seem to be great at handling like
Does
fine
not
details.
like that,
That
at
one.
all. Because
Yeah,
Unity wants
it
to
doesn't like that
blend
at all.
all of the things rather than have it be all pixelated like this.
Do you do a lot of your editing in Unity? Like a lot of model editing?
Yeah, for this whole tour, I didn't touch Blender.
Poor bastard. That's
Oh,
just
wow.
So-
Builder.
It works so much
Yeah,
better.
I have a plugin called Pro Builder. What it does,
Which is a
it's
Unity
really
asset.
cool. It's a Unity asset that you can get for free.
It's like a
and
game
you-
level
You
designer.
click on an object and you Pro Builderize it, and it lets you manipulate with like a primitive sort of Blender-esque version. It lets you
Yes.
manipulate all the vertexes and faces and normals and stuff like that in Unity.
Wow.
So everything you see was done in Unity.
I
It's
didn't even know
similar to
you
like
could do that
Hammer
in Unity.
Editor or
You
like
should have done some of this in Blender.
Forge or something.
Based on the model placing and
It's
stuff.
not really like
I didn't really know
Well,
anything
like
about
that
Blender at the
either.
time, and I didn't want to. The learning curve for Blender,
Blender
it's like a
That's
cliff,
fair.
and I didn't want to
Yeah.
face that when I was trying to.
Yeah,
do it.
it's not even a brick wall. It is straight up a Grand Canyon cliff.
It really is.
I can respect
I
just
feel that.
pro builderizing things and making your life a lot easier than trying to learn Blender and all that.
Yeah,
pain.
the fact that people can't tell that it's all done in Unity to me says that like, well, it doesn't really matter as long as it gets
Yeah.
done.
This is true.
So,
Fair enough.
And like, and if you know it,
Um,
and you can pull off this, yeah, fuck it, do it.
yeah, exactly. What else is in here? There's a bunch of fixing up that had to happen. I need to I need to remember to talk about the story because I don't want to neglect the story.
Context of the
So at this
story.
point in the story, we come in here, and this is kind of like the first part where we actually get some music. I think it's music comes in for the first time, and the music is like unsettling. It's not great. Like, this isn't a story about good feelings and warm fuzzy sunshine and stuff. This is a pretty dark story, and the first music that you hear reflects that. And the point where you hear it is the point where the prince is told by his older brother that the oracle was killed by the Inquisitor. The brother saw it, and now he thinks they're all in trouble and they're trying to get out of there. So I very much chose this point to be the first point where you hear music. And also, it stops very abruptly because the brother keeps bringing the prince back to reality. You'll notice every time the prince starts getting lost in his own thoughts and like all these anxieties start building up, you'll notice in the script I use the words "the brother brings him back," and it specifically says brings him back every time because the prince is just getting dragged to some other place, and the brother brings him back to like reality, to his surroundings, to awareness, to his own body. So that was very much kind of symbolic of like the way that things like anxiety can, in a sense, possess you, and sometimes you need that like external force to bring you back and ground you again.
Been there, done that. I've actually done that for someone.
I'm sure that it's something that a lot of people here have been through. Any questions about this area before we move on into the underground passageway?
I have an interesting question. I do know that we weren't... For one, did you expect all the travelers to always climb up on all the shelves?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's not enough room
We do that
here,
a lot.
So I knew that people were going to climb around. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and so we can see you properly.
same
We
thing.
can hear you. Easy peasy.
Bits we sits.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yes, I
It was always going to happen. It was just a matter of how.
Yep.
Yeah. I have very little in the way of invisible barriers in this map.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. We
Despite
know.
the space, everyone will elect to become monkey.
Yes.
Monkey. That's about right. I want to be monkey.
My other question was...
What was the other question? Yeah.
Did you ever consider adding animations to some of these props? Like, we moved the bookcase and then actually have it shift to the side to reveal the button.
That could be something for the future.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
I did think about
sequenced
it.
animations,
The main reason I did it
geometric
was
animation.
because of what we just talked about. The fact that people are going to be all over the furniture means that an animation is going to be glitchy and it's going to obfuscate things and people are going to mess up because you can't... It's risky. It's very risky in a tour like this to animate something that people are currently interacting with. So animations tend to happen in inaccessible parts.
Unless you had a
I
toggle button and then
understand
had
that.
people
That
push
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Nope.
Okay. Let me just check real quick, see if there's any word from Sheen.
We did have so many... We did have wishes
Probably
join
thought
us
it's an
here.
hour later.
Any wishes?
Wishes? Oh. Nick, can you make sure Wishes can get here? Get him to turn on Explorer mode?
He's
right here.
standing right there. He's standing right there.
Literally standing
Where?
right next to me.
There you are. Okay. Hello, Wishes.
Is he?
The man
Do you
is
have
moving.
Explorer mode
I
on?
can't see him.
Yep.
Oh no, there he is. I'm blind.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Let's go through into the abandoned passage.
Hi, blind. I'm thrilled.
To the abandoned passage. Ah, yes. Now for the fun part.
Ah, this moment.
The fun begins.
The beginning of the fun.
The real adventure.
So, one thing to point out, this shadow texture, like I fell in love with that. I couldn't bring myself to remove it, which meant that I had to do something that I don't normally do. Usually, I'm a big fan of in-world lighting. So, if you know much about video game design, you'll know that sometimes a designer has to light something in a way which is unrealistic. For example, candles in a castle that no one's lived in for 100 years, just so the player isn't going in completely blind. This is meant to be a series of abandoned tunnels. I would have them dark, except I love that shadow too much, and the aesthetics created by the dotted candles around, like I just liked it too much, and I was like, I really just want to have it like dark and spooky, but I decided to go against my instincts here and choose the lighting that didn't really make sense. So it's very much a conscious choice. I prioritized aesthetics over my normal building instincts.
You could justify
sometimes you
as,
do just gotta do
oh,
that.
the Fireborn has his fire powers around
No big
here,
deal.
and he's been following the pair the whole time and knows everything, or whatever.
Yeah. So there are people using it. It's not completely abandoned. There are people, like later on we see that there are people searching down here. So further down, it certainly makes sense that there could be lights when people are searching. But mostly in like this room and the next room, it makes a whole lot less sense, but I decided to do it anyway. You'll also notice there's a carved stone above the doorway of like a grape bundle, because this is like, in Vagrant Story, this is like a wine cellar or something like that, like an old big wine cellar, and that's like a symbol denoting that. But I just left it there because I thought, you know, if people notice, they get to see a little callback to Vagrant Story. In terms of story, as I mentioned, normally what happens when you go to a vision is like you'll have this fade to blue, there'll be like the waves coming in, the bubbles will start rising up, and then this music will start. And this aesthetic replaced the thing where normally it would fade to black or solid blue, and when it fades back, there's like a giant water bubble around us, but there's no, like, all the collision mesh is still here. But I decided against that again because I didn't want VR users to get too disoriented doing that several times in a tour, so we chose this one instead. And then I can turn the bubbles off, bring the light back, bring the waves back, go back to the music. And this music is from the Arbiter's Grounds in Twilight Princess. I think it's from the remake. I'm not sure if it's the original or the remake. But I love how that just opens up with that little beast noise. And
I knew that shit sounded familiar.
I did too!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Any questions about this section before we move through the tunnel?
I do have a question. Why the specific choices in the vision? It was descend, divulge.
Descend, divulge, detach. Yeah. So I wanted this tour to kind of explore mental health a little bit, and those it all starts with D just because alliteration is fun, but those specific ways to approach. Let me just get the script so that I don't say the wrong ones. Descend, divulge, dwell, distract, and then the secret one, detach. So these represent different ways that you can respond, or I guess react to like traumas or unpleasant things that are happening in your life, and each one they're pointless. They're intentionally all pointless. They're intentionally like they don't go anywhere, because that's kind of like real life. Sometimes you can do any of these things when you're having like a moment. You can dwell on it, you can try and distract yourself, you can divulge, you can descend deeper into it. They help to different degrees, but the real key in the story and in real life is to learn to detach and distance yourself, because if you don't have that distance, then any perspective you have is going to be distorted and unhelpful anyway. So that's why I made that choice.
That's that's accurate. As much as I hate it,
Yeah.
it's accurate.
I wanted a tour where people could actually subliminally learn like mental health advice from it without even realizing, and that's kind of one of the goals behind that. Any more questions before we move on? Okay, let's go.
And what of the visions themselves, decisions, / story-wise?
We'll talk about that in the next map. Smiles, you asked, what about the decisions themselves, story-wise? Are you asking, like...
The visions.
Oh, the actual content. Yeah, so each vision. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 visions in this story. The visions all have. I'll explain the meaning behind the visions as we go. So the first vision in there, I'll just read it out from the script. In a moonlight forest, a beast strides out of the undergrowth. It glides across the ground, argent, majestic, silent. A great silver elk. It lands, pauses, turns back. A younger tawny elk follows, slower and with less majesty, yet bearing great promise. The great elk observes as the young elk's shadow moves. It betrays the form. The forest becomes dark. The great silver elk is, of course, the silver aegis. The key word being like that the two things described in the Torah as silver. The younger tawny elk is because the brother was was mentored by the silver aegis. The silver aegis was like the one who was teaching him how to fight, how to behave, like sort of protecting him, bodyguard, all that kind of stuff fell to the silver aegis. So this scene, this vision of a great silver elk and a younger tawny elk, and the younger tawny elk's shadow moves, that's the silver aegis, the symbolic of the silver aegis noticing that the brother has like something is weird about him. There's like because the older brother is Shadowborn, who he has his own abilities. Oh, didn't mention this in the first thing, but this is a fun little detail. In the first room, when we were back up in the prince's bedroom, you'll notice, if you really pay attention to the tour, that the brother never opens the door. He's just in the room. And that's because he's the Shadowborn. He just went under the door. There was a knock, and then the brother's just there. The brother does it a lot in the tour. He just goes from place to place as a shadow, but he's really protective of his own ability, because there are things that happened in his past that I don't think even come up hinted in the story that are the reason why he hides his ability so much. I don't think even all his family members knew it. So this vision of the silver aegis noticing the brother's ability, that was what that vision was being about. And then, so if you descend into the vision, you get more information. The prince dives deeper into the vision. He remains in the moonlight forest. The shadow continues to shift, sliding beneath the younger elk. The greater elk stamps its hoof, unmoved. The shadow does not flinch. The elk stamps again. The shadow leaves in to strike. So we have this vision, or this image of like the mentor, the silver aegis, is noticing the shadow, and it's trying to attack the shadow. It's trying to get it away. It's like, get away from my elk, from my baby. And it's like trying to protect this young elk, not realizing that the shadow is a part of the young elk. And the silver aegis is stalwart in its protectiveness, and the shadow doesn't even flinch. And then the great silver elk persists, and then the shadow moves into strike, which is sort of a hint at the fact that the brother did end up killing the silver aegis.
Oh.
Which is
F.
why, yeah, he wasn't trying to kill the Silver Aegis, it was sort of one of those like panicked moments. So that wasn't his goal, but he was so ashamed at killing his own mentor that he didn't even tell his brother about it. He just kept all that. So in the next scene, when we come to with a part where we're on the boards and we're looking down and the Silver Aegis comes in, the brother knows that that's not the Silver Aegis. And when we are in the crossroad room before the library area, the brother knows that that's not the Silver Aegis running past injured. Which explains why the brother is so very, very on edge and like, let's get out of here, let's not dawdle. We like 100% urgency, the brother, because he knows that's not the Silver Aegis running around. Any more questions before we go to the rooftop section?
I'm just
not really a rooftop section.
So many pieces are falling into place. Holy
There's a lot to this tour, yeah.
There is.
Right.
You're an extraordinary writer, Trajan.
Thank you. Let's go.
Oh yeah, when
none may drop yet. He found a way through. Yeah. There's no it's automatically off, so you can go down. I also put a ladder here. I don't think anyone's ever needed it, but there is a ladder to teleport back up to the rafters over here behind Panda. This is a good example. I'm going to drop down. This is a good example of a map that needed a lot of work. You can see these uneven ground tiles. These were just up all over the place, making all kinds of obstacles, and I was like, that won't do. So I stamped it all down. Everywhere you can see a crack is pretty much like it used to be higher. There were blocks stacked up. So this room got changed a lot. None of that wood was there. I added all that. I had to make that using textures from the tour world. Yes.
One thing before we go. In the previous map, I did notice that the door you can't go through, the light is off, but the door you can go through, it's on. It's a very subtle game design thing. But exactly. It's well done.
It encourages people to not go there and waste time. Like if they're lost and they're trying to catch up to the group, you can just follow the light. Which is another reason why there's no lights that illuminate up there, because the brothers are hiding up there, and the lights are mostly in places that don't make all that visible. The one thing that doesn't really make sense is like at this part, the brothers are up there, and two zealots come in, and then the Silver Aegis comes in. They come in from different doors, but there's only one door in. And honestly, I just couldn't be bothered adding another door. So there should be like another doorway into this, and they come in from different doorways and then encounter each other. But no one's ever pointed out, so we'll just pretend that I didn't say that.
Okay.
Isn't a door, it's just an invisible door.
Yeah, the Silver Aegis melts up from a pile of mercury. And not even the zealots know that that's not the Silver Aegis. That's just the Inquisitor taking on a disguise to try and lure the brother out of hiding. But it doesn't work. The brother knows.
Gee, I imagine why.
And then the Inquisitor just keeps that disguise. Yeah. I mean, the brother can't tell anyone that that's the Inquisitor, because if he does, then they'll ask him like, well, how do you know that's not the Silver Aegis? And then he's just a suspect in the murder of the Silver Aegis, and he doesn't want that. So he can't tell anyone. Wishes. Oh, you're just thinking? Just posing? Cool. Any questions about this before we head out of the secret tunnel?
Curious, why the decision to have the invisible wall up there that should delete?
Yes, because...
Oh, okay, that was obvious. You don't want people falling through.
So,
duh.
I don't want people falling through, but I always wanted people to roughly be in the same physical place and state as the brothers. So it's the same reason why you can't cross the little canyon in the forest, because the brothers aren't over there. They're on this side. In this scene, the brothers are up there. They're not down here. So I wanted everyone to be looking down and sort of putting them a little bit in the state of the brothers and being like, okay, we're up here. we can't go down. We have to be sneaky. We don't want the zealots to notice us or any of that stuff. So it's because I don't want people falling down, and because I want that sort of extra touch of immersion.
I like it. I like it.
All right, let's move on.
And it also makes for a nice surprise of, oh, the ground is gone.
Yeah.
That's when I stood on the invisible wall. Delete the ground. Ah! So random minor detail does this room possess?
That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Imagine.
That's what you have now.
Alizy making me load 100 megabyte avatar. What are you doing?
I know, it's so bad.
Dang.
I
Imagine.
picked the wrong avatar.
This map, just briefly, as you'll see, this doorway is illuminated. The candle is out. We have like a hint of daylight coming through. This, and it's accentuated on the next map. From the start of the tour to this point, we don't see any daylight. We only see moonlight and firelight. And I intentionally wanted this to be the first glimpse, and people coming up for the first time might be like, oh, we're finally out, we're going to see some daylight, get some real sun on this tour. Of course we're not, but I just wanted that sort of contrast, that tonality. And I really like that doorway, but it doesn't, I guess it could fit into the lore. You could say that it's an old...
It was originally boarded up or something like that.
Yeah, those. I think this might be like a mini boss room in Vagrant Story. Do you remember, Diamond?
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah,
No, I'm thinking
the
of the one
monster
with like
meets-
the where you fight the lizard man. Yeah.
I think what's
okay,
harder to
we'll go-
explain in the lore of the tour is all the rocky, like, sides to this.
Yeah.
Which in Vagrant
I
Story is
flattened-
because the city is constantly being hit by earthquakes because it's abandoned and full of shit.
Yeah. I flattened as much as I could in areas where it was sort of in the way. In places where it was to the sides, I just didn't really bother. I was just like, yeah, it looks like it was rock hewn. It's not a big issue because it's all underground. Okay, let's go through.
There's that one transition right there.
Yeah, a fade indicating that we are moving to a new section. We're out of the underground and we're in an abandoned little house. This.
How did I never see
this
that
map,
before?
This map gives an even closer hint of daylight, like this really sort of nice bluish white light coming through, like sort of a strong light of dawn. Deliberately a very strong contrast to everything that was before, and there's no hint of like firelight or moonlight in this room, so it's sort of changing the environment we're going through is changing not only physically but even the way it's lit, and the colors that are present change as we go through.
It's very cold.
Yeah, the wind blowing through. I wanted the sound of like a wind howling through, like an open window and something.
I always
in
felt
the
like a
story-
snowstorm was outside to me.
Yeah, it is actually.
Crazy system.
This audio is from snow. You can usually tell by the pitch of the howling. So a warm wind will have a low pitch, whereas a cold wind will have a high pitch. It's a fun fact for you.
And I would think that's because of the density air. Colder air has a lot more
Yeah, it's
density,
to do with
a lot more
density.
energy
Nick,
to
can you
it.
get raving from Spawn? Make sure he puts explore mode on.
Energy. No.
Higher energy, higher pitch.
Energy. So it's the same thing with water. Like if you pour hot water versus pouring cold water, the cold water has a higher pitch sound to it, and the warm water has a lower pitch sound to it. So you can hear temperature in a sense.
I'm gonna have to try
in
that
this
now.
part of this, in this part of the story, you won't be able to hear it. This is a point where what happens here? Abandoned home. The brother, so the prince really starts to be like, well, that was the Silver Aegis back there. Why aren't we getting help from her? But he doesn't say that because the prince has like no confidence in himself, so all his worries are internalized. But the brother is pretty sensitive to what his younger brother is feeling, so he picks up on that, and he picks up on this uncertainty and these doubts that the prince is having, and he sort of addresses that, and we get like a little bit of a reassurance, but there's still a lot of apprehension on both sides because the brother is holding back a lot, and the prince can kind of sense that, but isn't really aware of the fact that he can sense that. He's just uncomfortable and he doesn't know why. Like, the brother offers him a water skin to drink, and the prince is like, well, is that poison? But he doesn't. He's never going to say that, and he hates the fact that he thinks that about his brother, but he also can't hide it. So there's a lot of this really understated conflict and tension between the characters, which is really, I didn't want to go over the top with it, but I wanted it to be like, well, there's like a breakdown of trust here. The relationship is like dissolving, and which is quite significant for both of them, because it's like at the very start, the older brother is like a god in the eyes of the prince. He's like looks up to him in every single way. So to have this shift in the relationship really is like, even though we're heading toward the light figuratively, the tonality is getting darker as we go. So there's that contrast of like, even though it's now day, it means less because everything is getting so much worse for the prince.
A lot of things.
Any questions about this? Yeah. Any questions about this map before we move on to the town?
Nothing comes to mind.
Is this one thing that comes to mind? This house looks heavily abandoned as well. Is there a reason for that particular choice, or is it just because it ties to that? It ties to the abandoned tunnel.
So it's kind of like the veteran says there used to be a lot of tunnels going under Moravos. A lot of them are lost. But they had to go somewhere, and a lot of them end up going to people's homes, even if the people don't realize it, like if the floor gets boarded up or something. The veteran still knows his tunnel is there, and this tunnel is still accessible from this house, but because it's abandoned, no one actually realizes that the tunnel is still here. Well, I mean, some people do, but the common people don't.
Gotcha.
So it sort of gives this idea of like a lot of secrets in history, like the fact that there's a secret tunnel into the castle from this abandoned house in the town, sort of, at least I hope, it denotes to the viewer that there's a lot of, this place has a history of like a lot of conflict and subterfuge and like people doing sneaky stuff and like politics and tension and conflict and stuff, because normally you wouldn't have an abandoned home in a town having a secret tunnel into the royal palace. You wouldn't have that
into the actual castle. Yeah, no.
In a much lighter story. So the fact that this exists here just sort of adds on to the dark setting. Alright, let's move on to Moravos.
Moravos.
I know there's no, like, it doesn't make sense for a house to be on there, but I just like this stair area too much and I just wanted to use it. Otherwise I would have had to come out of the house. So that's another thing where it's just like, it's just cool coming up the stairs. And I wanted it to be like, come out for a breath of air as well. It's like we're finally out of the underground.
Yeah.
We've got some open sky. There isn't really, I just made it so that there's just the slightest hints of blue sky through the clouds. I made the clouds really dense, but I still wanted to hold back on that because blue sky is extremely symbolic in this tour, and that's why it holds off. Like the ending when the sun finally comes out, like that's intentionally in contrast to everything, like all the environments that are built up to that point. So, oh boy, the town. there's a lot to talk about in terms of like the stitching of this map. This town area is like 5 or 6 different maps in Vagrant Story that do not have seamless joins, so I had to manually make all the joins for these maps. There's so much here. I don't know how many hours I spent touching this place up, but it was a lot. This is also a place where I did do invisible areas. The sole reason for that is because these plants, the foliage mesh, as you can see, it's solid, and I wasn't really in a position to pro-builderize all the town because it's so much, and pro-builderizing does glitch things up a little, which means that I kind of left the collisions on the plants and I just put barriers around the plants instead.
This is fair.
A lot of the streets had to be evened out. This was way less even. This had to be like flattened out to be much more reasonable. Let's... Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Let's go this way. So like this section here is 2 maps joining. Hopefully you can't tell. I mean, you can tell if you look here. Like that's
There's that
a
little
big
seam,
gap
but I
when you're in VR, right?
no,
yeah.
I didn't notice it during our times here.
So close.
Yeah.
I
And even here,
noticed you didn't point it out.
these floors don't
Oh, yeah.
match because I just smushed the maps together.
Honestly, it is
and
so
then-
hard to tell.
Yeah.
There are floor tiles in a lot of places. I guess.
But at the same time, that's also where the pixelized graphic helped,
It
smooths it out a lot for you.
All these houses around here, I made because that was all open before. I think it's maybe ocean in the game. I don't remember. It's certainly not enclosed. So I had to close it all in and sort of give the illusion of just the town continuing on. The water animation, I'm surprised that worked so well. It's just the people who made this map in Vagrant Story aligned, I guess they probably did the same thing. They aligned all the textures so that when you give it like a vertical scrolling, it all slides in like the same direction and it looks like water behaving, which is pretty cool. I like the effect. I did have to fix a bunch of the sections manually, but it came out pretty well.
Yeah.
This path here used to slope up really steeply and come down again. I had to fix all that, make it level. You can see a little bit of like signs of patchiness here. These gaps in the...
Nice.
You never see these details when you're
This
not
here.
looking for it.
This is another seam, the middle of this arch. So you can see, I think, you can see under the map there. I did try to patch up as best I could, but there are still signs. So, yeah.
Oh.
You can see the change.
Well, that one's a way more subtle seam.
Oh yeah, that's a hard to see seam. I like it.
He's like my favorite spot.
Yeah.
The little
Little
all
fountain.
the
fountain.
all the water animations you see are like a different. So like this water animation is different to the one out there because it has to go at like a different speed, a different translucency to look good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like
Do the same thing with
customizing
sand
materials by
and
hand.
so
Yeah. And there's another seam right here. You can see these buildings don't match.
Yeah, I see it right where
They don't match here.
there, where ether's.
But it's just like you're just running through.
Yep.
It's close enough, you know.
Right.
And then out here, got the main open area. With
Nice.
when Tailed gave me these maps, and I was like, "Can the water and waterfalls be animated?" And he's like, "I don't think so." I proved him wrong. Found a way to do it. Made the
Dream
bridge
said,
'cause
"You
there
are
was
like
no...
a baby. Watch this."
There's no bridge over. You're a baby. That was open. It went to another street. I closed that in. Both ends of the water were open. I closed them in with big fake buildings that I made. I made a slope to get out of the water. You're welcome, because there wasn't one before.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's another seam. This whole street here, there's like zigzag path that doesn't exist in Vagrant Story. I made that completely by hand, so that we could get from map to map.
My man.
Most of that's fake. Stuff way down there is fake.
Yes.
The legendary
gate. What did you think of? What did you think of the Travelers doing that?
The gates to Mud Summits.
Fuck it. I'm not even going to talk about this part. There's a lot of.
Oh no! Come on.
There's a lot of damage here. A lot of this I had to fix up because it was like a big hole and lots of rubble, and I made it look a little bit nicer. It just sort of looks like the town's been through a couple of sore spots. I think there's a seam. I think it's here. I think.
Yep. It is.
Yeah.
I've never noticed
do
that
that
building
right
falling
right
over.
there.
Yeah. Oh no, it's here. It's here. Here it is.
Oh.
This is the seam between maps.
There you
And all these like little low windows. It just suggests this underground stuff. There's verticality to these maps. That's why I love them a lot. And then we come down here. And then
The pit that
it's meant to be water.
pit.
There's meant to be water there, but you can't see it, so it just looks like a bottomless pit in the town.
Yeah, just
I don't
casually.
know why I
Just
didn't make
don't
it
dump your
visible.
trash in.
I removed it as well. A lot of people throw themselves into the infinite abyss.
So, let's see,
The
story.
next division.
So at this point, we go through the town. Hang on. Let's talk about the story at the start. So when you come out, there's like a bit of a cutscene, a bit of an intro about what's happening in the town. You know, carrots, cucumbers, cabbage, and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's like people finally get a breath of life and sort of this idea of like, okay, the brothers aren't alone. There's surely someone in this town who can help them. But I immediately squashed that by having the brothers over here, guards, being told by zealots to look out for the princes. So I wanted that to be, nope, you're still in hiding. You can't trust anyone at this point. You still got to keep sneaking around, which is that entertaining little conversation between the zealots and the guards that come on. And those two guards, of course, represent the two NPCs that do this minigame. This guessing minigame. And then we get to the end of the town, which has slightly different outcomes depending on what happens in the quest. And then there is and then I think the vision comes next, and we have another. I have my controls out here. This vision, I'll explain this vision. Vision B. Amidst vague, towering structures, a blue bird flits, darting from corner to corner, desperate. Giving pursuit is a red feline, stalking calmly yet appearing in places where it shouldn't be. The bird is frantic, its movements urgent and panicked. It tries to stay silent, yet every beat of its wings betrays its location. Everything begins to redden. So this one is it's very symbolic. So amidst vague towering structures is like the palace, the town, everything feels hostile to the prince. So everything around him at the moment just feels vague and towering and overbearing and unsafe. The blue bird is representative of the prince himself, blue of course being the water and the colors of the visions and all that sort of stuff, and the blue cloak that he picks out at the start of the dialogue, he's pretty much represented by blue. And it's a bird because of the childhood story that we're going to hear about later, where there's the small birds in the tower, and the mother tries to save them, but the castle cat gets them or something like that. And the brother sort of attached himself to the idea of these baby birds and be like, well, these baby birds kind of represent me, and we in turn, that symbolism sort of continues on through the story. So the bluebird in this case is the prince. Giving pursuit is a red feline. that is the Inquisitor, stalking calmly because the Inquisitor is usually so composed and stoic, yet appearing in places where it shouldn't be because the prince can't understand how the Inquisitor is getting from place to place. The answer, of course, being that he's not always himself. He sometimes looks like Silver Aegis. It tries to stay silent, yet every beat of its wings betrays its location. This is kind of an allusion to the feeling of the prince feeling like, or even the brother, if they use their powers to escape or help them, the Inquisitor will just know about it. Like, they're trying to stay not only hidden, but they're trying to stay mundane, non-magical. They're trying to not use their shortcuts. Even though the prince doesn't really understand his own power that he has control over, there's still that deep feeling of like, well, I can't do anything, really. And of course, there's the 4 options: descend, divulge, dwell, distract. If you descend, the prince dives deeper. The red intensifies, and there's an unnatural warmth that glows, arises, and burns, and burns, and burns. That's basically worst case scenario. His head is telling him, if you continue on this way, the Inquisitor will catch you and everything will be fire. Like, that's what part of the prince believes, and that's what's represented in that descent part of the tour. And then, of course, the other options: divulge. He tries to tell it to the brother, but in this case, he is so very anxious that he can't even articulate it properly. He's just mumbling incoherently, and the brother is so fixated on keeping them alive at this point in time, he doesn't have time to even try and listen to what the prince is saying. Dwell, there is a hint that the bird reminds him of a memory from years ago, which is, again, we're going to come to. And then there was a cat as well that he thinks about, and the cat reminds him of something. Distract, he ends up thinking about Laodicia. He tries to reassure himself. And then there's detach, of course, and he realizes, oh wait, I'm actually not substantially weaker than the Fireborn. I can protect myself. And then, of course, like, pretty much no matter what happens, there's an interruption. The Inquisitor is like real close, and the brother notices, and there's a real moment of like, if we breathe too loud, the Inquisitor will notice that we are here. And this is the first point in the story where the Inquisitor explicitly in narration is present. And I wanted that right here, because I wanted the sense of like, okay, we've gone through the town, we've hidden from people, we're about to meet whoever the brother thinks we can help us, and then I just wanted like, no, boom, Inquisitor. And this is the first point we meet him, and like, I think when we do meet him, like the music, there's no music at all, because nothing can really portray the feeling of just imminent doom. I thought any music would subtract from that moment, so I wanted nothing. And then the Inquisitor, of course, doesn't notice them, or does he? And then we've got the fun bell over here that I definitely don't abuse. And then we meet the veteran, which is a whole can of lore. So let's go in here. Oh, first, any questions about this area before we move on?
I'm curious. How do you go about making the mini games for your tours?
Agony. So I write lots and lots and lots of ideas, and I write down all the requirements as well. I was like, okay, it needs to involve ideally 2 NPCs. Those NPCs should not represent the protagonist, because otherwise all the players are working against the main character. So the NPCs have to represent outside forces. It needs to have like certain odds to it. It needs to be something that like 20, 30, 40 plus people can all interact with and feel like they're doing some interaction, and list all these requirements. And then I do tons of research and just look up like, icebreaker mini games, or like classroom activities, or just anything and I just get heaps of ideas and like just narrow it down and work on it from there. And with this one, I thought, you know, an icebreaker game.
You played a game of werewolf.
Essentially, you know, like this is like a lying game, trying to get away with lying. And I was like, well, it'd be pretty fun if the NPCs had to go around and question people, and then they had to figure out which group was lying to them. It was really the basis of this game. In reality, it worked a little differently to what I thought. Some people are pretty good at lying, and
Weren't the princess caught, like,
I think a lot of the time,
time?
the NPCs like had a gut reaction that like they thought someone was lying, but then they thought, well, this person on the outside seemed like they were lying, so I'm going to pick them. But that usually wasn't it. It was usually the one that was more of a gut reaction. But it did get solved a few times.
I figured it out once, at least.
You got one? Yeah. And then there was that one time as well where I told everyone to actually lie, and only one pair would tell the truth, and that was when Sheen and Ren were the NPCs the second time. And that was fun as well because I didn't tell them I was doing that.
Oh, that's a
It's
troll.
just a bit of fun.
Hey, that's what it's all about.
Okay, any more? There were more questions. I heard something.
I had a question.
Okay, we've got Raving and Ragnos. Raving. Yep, what's up?
Grace McRae, speak.
Gonna type it?
Raving is mute.
Okay, take your time.
You know this, Trajan.
What do I know?
Has it been that long?
That Raving's mute.
Yes, he knows. Makes you think
Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't
talking to me in
know.
Discord.
Oh, okay.
Why did I put this window here? I didn't put these windows here. They were already here. But I kept them here because I always wanted this idea that, like, no matter where they are, someone could be watching them. Like, I didn't want them to feel too safe. Ragnaros, you had a question.
So, as I recall, the princes never got caught all that often. I was wondering what the main difference is between getting caught and not getting caught. Because I believe I heard of a time that they were caught. I wasn't there for that tour, but I believe it didn't turn out too different.
Yeah. So the main difference is if you get caught, I'll come back down. If you get caught and the NPCs win this game, then what happens is the brothers get noticed by guards. They have to flee, and that change in time means that there's actually no vision at the end of that scene. So there's no chance to get anything from this vision here. This vision you don't have to get. It's not required. It's just like lore and explanation and detail and stuff. So it's pretty inconsequential, but that was by design because I didn't want too many points of failure in a tour of this complexity.
Okay.
That actually brings up another question.
The consequence is just
yes.
less lore.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Say we had failed the next one as well. Would we not have the option to defy when we got to that point?
Once you learn, defy in like the destruction of Felden scene.
Yes, the destroy. That one.
So generally speaking, once you learn a word, you can use it at any point. It's meta. But the only exception to that is the one where you need the brother's sword with you, which I think might be that one. I don't remember which one it is. One of them, the word is not enough. You need the brother's sword. Otherwise, the prince doesn't have that that object to sort of personify what he's fighting for. That sort of grounding object.
That's the other thing. I never understood.
Yeah.
I never could figure out how and why we got to keep the sword.
We'll get to that. We'll get to the sword.
How fast can you ring
We'll
it?
get on to that point. this as fast as I can click. Okay, any more questions
try to go
before we go
supersonic
indoors?
speed.
Did.
That was as fast as I can go.
Hyper.
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
to the townhouse. Boom, doom, doom, doo, 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 doo. Once everyone's in, I'll turn on the nice music. Is Nick here? Oh.
There's still
There's
got people
Nick.
coming in. Where is Nick?
I'll be back.
Oh, it's just right.
Nick is in the last area.
Somehow get lost.
2017
think it didn't.
community asking me to join them. Hey, Trajan,
Crazy, I can
I have to
still
go.
hear the bell going.
It was nice seeing you. I have to go meet up with the OGs there chat, but
Okay.
See you,
Alright,
Wishes.
thanks for
Good
coming.
seeing you again.
See you next time.
Nice seeing you all too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See where wishes.
Oh, I thought that
So-
was a group invite. Oh wait. Ready. All right. See ya.
So this part of the story is the first real breather that we get, which is indicated by the really nice sort of folksy music. We meet the veteran, who is of course the father of the Silver Aegis, and
Oh no.
the sword above the fireplace is the family sword, I guess, which the Inquisitor ends up getting, because of course the Inquisitor comes here. So there's a few things that happen here that are quite symbolic. So there's first the glimmering sword that's noticed, and the veteran is a pretty old wise man, and of course when they come here he's like, oh, I guess you're here to tell me the full story, like you're here to explain things to me, because the veteran has been hearing from outside that all that propaganda that the zealots are telling, like the older brother abducted the younger brother and he's a Dacian spy and stuff, and the veteran's like, that's probably not the case. And then of course the brothers rock up and he's like, okay, explain it to me, what's going on? And then the brother explains that the oracle is dead. It was the Inquisitor, and he carefully tiptoes around the fact that he killed the Aegis. He says, I did attack the Aegis, I had to. But he doesn't say that he killed her, because because no one else knows that the Silver Aegis is dead. The veteran doesn't ask if he killed her. The veteran just says, I heard that you attacked her, because that's what the zealots were saying. Because the zealots don't know that the Silver Aegis is dead. And because the veteran doesn't know that, he doesn't think to ask, so the brother gets to avoid lying and just sort of indirectly says, well, I did attack her. But he doesn't address a point that isn't brought up. So he kind of gets away with that. And then there's a bit more lore about the veteran saying, well, you know, with this happening, Daesh is going to take this advantage. They're opportunist. The brother remembers how much he doesn't like Dacians because he fought in a recent battle against them, and then Lake Fort comes up again. And then the veteran, in all his, with all his apparent strength and wisdom, is just like, you want to fight the Silver Aegis? Dream on, that's not going to happen. And then the brother's just like, well, what can we do? And the veteran says, well, I can get you outside the city. That's all I can do. And then before they go in to the tunnel, the brother of course realizes, well, if once the zealots get here, when they're going to cover all their bases, they're going to eventually come here, they're going to question the veteran. The veteran's a smart guy, but the zealots have their ways, and they might find out that the veteran willingly helped them. So the brother realized, or he believed, that he had to attack the old man in order to make the old man think that, like, well, okay, maybe the prince isn't fully innocent, so that the veteran wouldn't become another victim of the Inquisitor. And it's intentionally left open. We don't find out what happens to the veteran at the end of the story. All we know is that the Inquisitor ends up with the sword. So worst case scenario, the veteran dies anyway. Best case scenario, the veteran is let off because he was attacked by the brother, and the Inquisitor takes the sword either way. But this is where the sword comes from, that the veteran ends up with at the end. Because the Inquisitor knows his own weakness, because he knows a lot of law. He has access to it, being the Inquisitor of the Varna Church. And he knows that sword, he knows that now that he's underestimated the brother and the prince, and they're really getting away from his grasp, he's like, okay, I'm going to need that sword, because I know that sword is like a weakness. And that's another reason why he gets it. Why what?
Why is it a weakness? I don't think that was ever explained.
Oh, the sword?
Oh, it was a library thing.
Yeah. So the sword, I'm gonna go find it so I don't misquote it.
I would have thought to check out the sword in the library.
The sword. Okay. So it's a very nice sword. It's got the motifs of a silver elk, which of course is the emblem of that whole family, of the veteran and the silver aegis. They have a silver elk emblem. And the inscription reads, "By Varna shall this blade vanquish and protect," which is really, in actuality, is probably just part of the oath that an aegis takes. However, as we know in worlds like this, words can have power, and in this case, because that is part of the oath that was taken, and because that oath was true and good, that gave it the actual power that it said. It's like, literally, by Varna shall this blade vanquish and protect. This blade carries with it the will of Varna, which is the god of the Varnan Church. So it's a little bit of like a supernatural, like the words that were initially symbolic become literal sort of deal.
I see.
And then, of course, this map is really cozy. I had fun doing this map up. It's like there are cobwebs up because the veteran is like, he's a tidy man, but he's well past his prime, and getting those cobwebs up there is a little bit beyond him. So it lent a little bit of that, like, he is very capable, but he's an old man now. Like, he's beyond his peak. That's why I left the cobwebs in. And I didn't put a fireplace in the fire. I was going to, but I wanted cold light down here and like more warm light up there. I wanted that contrast.
It's a nice contrast.
Any questions about the veterans' house before we enter the underworks of the city?
I remember us hearing about the bottle of wine.
Yeah. So the first thing he does when they come in is offer them wine, and the prince tastes it, probably this kind of wine for the first time, and it's like bites his tongue and stuff, but it's a little fruity, and the old man just picks up the jug and drinks from it. It's directly in contrast to when the prince is offered a water skin from his brother earlier. So it's kind of like the prince hesitated to take water from his own brother, but the brother will gladly accept wine from this person that the prince doesn't necessarily know. And that indicates, hopefully, to the reader that, like, okay, this guy is like the most trustworthy person we've met so far, because it directly contrasts with that earlier scene. Gotcha. And hopefully that comes across, that this is like one of the actual, like, one of the, like, best characters, best like as in like as a person, as a human. The veteran. Any more questions?
Yeah, is that another place where you had to add your own door? I just noticed it kind of seemed.
Yeah, every single door. Yeah, every single door I had to add. There are no doors in this game.
Doors did not exist until Trajan came up with them.
I invented doors. Yeah.
I'm so glad.
That's why they call him Door Jim.
I'm adorable.
Oh,
Okay, let's go in.
And he's.
Don't go through just yet. Don't go through. Actually, there are doors in this game, but they only put doors in places that you cannot get through. Every access point doesn't have a door, so I did have door textures to pull from, thankfully. We all in? I can't see past Panda's massive back.
You're
Sneak
welcome.
in. Thank you. Is there anyone else back there? Oh, there's someone. Okay.
I think there were a few
So
people behind.
in this section, we have a very brief, like 2-paragraph cutscene where the brother just pauses and he's like, I'm sorry you had to see that, because he just knocked the old man off his feet to get down here to spare him. And there's just like a moment of silence between them. So even though we just had that sort of like mostly wholesome interaction up there, it's a dark story. I can't let that linger. I had to bring it back down to like just on the brink of hell. So I had to reinforce that sort of tension between the brothers, where it's like the prince was just feeling like his brother was actually trustworthy, and then it's like, oh wait, his brother just attacked the veteran. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't have anyone to trust, but now I'm kind of stuck with my brother. And again, we're going underground, so the physical environment matches the tone of where we're going. We're going underground because things are going bad again. And here, in the game, the blue is actually much stronger in these parts. I tried to dial it down as much as I could, but this is as blueless as I could get it. So I just went with it. I was like, well, it's going to be cold. And this is one part where there are actually no man-made lights to really indicate that, like, in contrast with the other underground tunnel, definitely no one comes down here. Like, this is long lost, long abandoned.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just nothing. It's just the ambient light and the vague sort of darkness above.
So
And let's go through.
Ah, yes, the underground city. I have many questions about this place.
Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry for everyone to get in.
Lamp.
Stupid question.
I did wonder why there was a lamppost down here.
Stupid question.
Yeah. So the veteran kind of hints at it when he talks about the under passages. These passages were carved a long time ago as like escape routes and stuff, but like people they were much more accessible back then, and people started building houses into the stone in these under tunnels, and it sort of became a city beneath the city. And this lamppost, and of course all the building fronts around us, but this in the middle is specifically seems so out of place, but it just denotes that like there was a time when people did live down here, which adds to the historical layers figuratively and physically, because we have a city on top of like an abandoned city. You had a question?
Gotcha.
I was wondering, was that intentional to where when you go to the menu you cannot click on anyone else's avatar in the world?
Ah,
no,
yes.
that's like a raycasting bug. I don't know what's doing that. Can't fix it.
Oh, okay.
If you just use the Here tab on your quick menu, you can select anyone that way.
Or if you're in VR, aim to the sides. Because
Yeah,
it's
sometimes
only
you can
in
get
your
different
face.
angles. I think it is to do with the menu. I'm not blaming Nick, but something's going on with the raycasting in this world. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. It is what it is. Speaking of Nick, where's Nick Easy?
We make do.
There he is.
He's right there. Okay, let's move on.
Yep. Just something that couldn't be worked around.
Ah, yes.
I was pretty close to having another puzzle here, but I decided, nah. At this point, I just want the story to keep moving, and we're about to do a quest, so I just made a simple parkour. It's one of the least sensible parts because we have floating blocks, which I usually hate, but I just thought, screw it.
Yeah.
Fun little change of
then you got
pace.
those.
So just go through to the other side. Don't forget, there's a shortcut through to chapter 3. If you can't make the parkour, just use the chapter 3 shortcut.
Or you can also do the funny VR chat.
World menus. Yep, or you can start a...
What's making jumping work
depends.
here?
That depends.
Stutter step across.
Go through, guys. Go through.
This place is a little too crowded for
Go through.
all of us to be standing here.
Temporary soaking, temporary.
Yeah. I did not know you could chicken
It's
jump
now
here.
time. Yeah. But do you know what time it
Trey
is?
Jam, what decision? What prompted you to add a soup pot to the map? Wow.
I know, it's so crazy.
I know, it's beautiful. The
So
ritual has
beautiful.
been recognized.
Soup.
Ah, yes. This is one of the...
I remember the good old days when Sal was still here. He was always a soup can when he was the soup
Yeah.
He was always in there.
yes. And
Yep.
okay,
I've never
alright,
had
time for
dragon
soup.
soup.
Well, allow us to present. One of the things we always Travis love to do is during breaks like this, we would sit here around the campfire and chant soup, 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 soup.
Soup, soup,
Yeah.
soup,
It's
soup,
hilarious.
This is where the break happens if we're on the way to the neutral ending, because this is about halfway through it. And I really like this map from Vagrant Story because we can see we've got Castletown in the background. Of course, it represents more of us. We've got like a nice moonlit area, and in the story, of course, this is the point where the brothers actually have a more meaningful moment where they have a chance to sort of open up a bit more. The brother can explain things a bit better. There's a bit of some actual raw emotion coming out, and they share in an old memory. Put that nice sweet music on. They share in the old memory of them discovering a nest of bluebirds in one of the tower wings, which is like one of those towers, so just sort of grounds it a little bit more. And they named the birds, so they got attached to them, and then the cat found the nest, and it says the mother bird fought fiercely, and then it's just the story is left, and the implication is that the mother died trying to save the baby birds, and the prince really got attached to this sort of nest because we have baby birds and a mother, and in the story we have two brothers and a mother, and it's an intentional direct parallel, and also a little bit of potential foreshadowing because we have a cat, a mother bird, and baby birds, and we have the Inquisitor, which is a cat in the last vision, and we have the mother who is intentionally made out to be the good guy in the story because the prince is projecting the story of the birds onto his own life. In reality, he doesn't know that his mother actually is not such a great woman and has ulterior motives. So it's sort of like it's intentionally misleading foreshadowing because it's from the perspective of the prince who really thinks that, like, well, it's his whole family that are victims here when it's actually just him and his brother, not necessarily his mother. And then there's that sort of, at the end, the promise of like, well, when this is all over, we're going to go to Laodicea, just you and me. And that sort of promise is intentionally the first point where the brother's like, okay, like, we're on the same side. Like, I trust my brother. I see that he's doing things that he doesn't want to do. He's kind of forced to do them for, like, the greater good, so to speak. He's thinking about a Lazarus and what it would mean if something were to happen to them as heirs. And it's like the first point where they really start to like repair and rebuild that connection between them, which is why we have that nice music, which is, I believe it's Coin Song from Final Fantasy VI, which is of course a beautiful game.
Great game.
Any questions about this scene before we move on to the Duke's Wield?
Was there any specific reason for having 3 baby birds rather than 2?
So to be honest, so the brother saying 2 names and remembering the third one sounded better than him saying one name and forgetting the other name. So
I see.
like, it's just for the flow of the sentence, because I did originally have it where it's just like,
that's interesting.
it's so unlikely that you would remember one baby's name but not the other baby's name. So it sounded better to be like Dusty, Scylla, and then the prince is like Pickle. It just flowed better as a sentence, and it also helped it stop from being a literal translation of the family structure. Is 2 children, 3 children. So it ultimately ended up helping it being a little bit less on the nose. But that's the reason why it just worked better as a sentence. Any other questions? How are we doing for time, by the way?
Any
Ragnaros.
significance for the bird's name?
It is 12:32.
If you can't press V and your like microphone's button is stuck, you can still use this small menu.
Okay, let's go through.
Wait.
Play them.
You can still climb up that
Someone
wall.
asked about the significance of the names.
Nice.
If there's any significance to the name, someone asked.
Not that one, not that
I don't know who asked.
I don't think so.
For the names of the birds?
I've had another bird. I've had an actual bird conspiracy.
For the names, you know what I did? I googled like medieval bird names or something. I just picked names that sounded good.
The button doesn't want to open and close. the microphone.
I also wanted like the name of the third one that the prince says, Pickle. Like, that's a pretty pathetic name, but that's intentionally, like, that's the one that the prince attaches to, because that's the one that he feels like most represents him. Is like, he sees himself as pathetic, so he attaches to the pathetic bird, and he remembers Pickle. The brother doesn't. He remembers Dusty and Scylla. But yeah, randomly generated names. All right, let's go.
And that was another one of those transitions that was like, you have traveled a lot.
Yes.
Ah.
Where's my spot? There we go.
Panda looks beautiful.
I like that.
Look at that mess. Yeah.
With the lantern?
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta restart. No problem.
Be surprised how many worlds I visit are just are like near pitch black in places.
Iman is
something like this is always
right.
helpful. Kind of just maybe the thing I put on my
missed that
avatars,
one,
even if
so-
it doesn't really make sense.
It was something about input not
It's
going
just
through.
helpful.
Oh yeah, I got
Absolutely.
your Discord message. Thank you.
What's your
See you in a minute.
radius for yours?
I don't know.
I reckon
it's
she
not
lost
that
power
far.
or something, whereas internet's down.
just-
Because it's really
Mine is
weird to
on
look
5,
at.
and it's not that great.
No, something
It's enough
must
to
have
where
crashed.
it's useful, but not enough to where it
Process.
brightens an entire like
Yeah,
large.
because
camera.
Yep.
like normally he would have just like gone on Discord on his phone and let me know or something. So something's.
Yeah.
So I've already
He
got a
must have
question
lost
about this
internet.
place.
Most like, well,
Yeah.
no, because even then, he would have had cell service.
Something's come up. Some emergency happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay.
So, the Duke's Wield is. What can I talk about first? Oh, these maps were a pain in the butt to make. Actually, let's go. I think you can walk straight through. let's come over here.
Yeah, because it's somewhat organic.
My
And it's all
favorite.
pieced together.
Tree.
It's not like boxy level design. It's all
Yeah.
rocks and geometry.
So actually,
Sorry,
you know
I'm
what
not
would be
having a
fun?
question.
Mhm.
You want to test the game right now?
I reckon we can go through. No, I think we can
Try and test the
do
game?
NPC 1 position and look at the map.
NPC 1's position? Okay. Oh, the overhead view?
Wait a minute, I think.
How do we do that?
Let's try it. Let's go back a sec.
We're gonna do an experiment.
Science.
Do the science.
Yeah. Okay. Let me
For the
think. So
glory.
if I
Yeah, NPC 1. Open it up.
where are the NPC buttons? This one. NPC buttons. Okay. So if we come through again, no, we didn't have to come back here. Sorry. If we come through again. Okay.
There they are.
Don't
Find the
click
chaser
any yet.
and don't click anything
No
yet.
clicky.
Don't
No
click
click,
anything.
no clicky. No clicky. Wait till
Don't
everyone's here.
click
No
anything.
clicky, no clicky.
We're only gonna do NPC 1.
If you click, oh no, and I'll hack your computer. Okay. So click NPC 1.
Now you...
Only
Oh.
Oh, it disappears.
Oh.
Okay, wait.
It disappears.
F.
Well, it's a good thing the recording man got it. Wait, it's back. No, it's not. It's back.
So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
spam it, and you guys have to click. You guys have to click it, okay?
As much
So
as
just keep
possible.
clicking till it
Hey,
goes.
spam for your life.
I'm here.
Yeah, I was trying to say chapter 3 to you, but it wouldn't
Wait,
let
who's
me say
first?
anything.
wow.
Wait, was I
Yeah,
like
this is
not
really
talking
cool.
like the whole time?
It's a top-down view of the players in the world. Although right now it's broken for me because I'm supposed to be able to see the map.
I see how this.
I don't see the map either.
Oh
I
my
can see
god.
the
Yeah, you're
players.
supposed to be able to
understand.
see the
That's
map,
nice.
and these tires teleport the attacker
Oh.
to the other players.
that's
And fun
That is
fact,
much
as the
better.
attacker is moving around, it's not really a teleport, it's mostly
Feed it.
just a fling.
Oh, it's all fog.
Like it pulls it in,
Camera.
so it kind of is a
Yeah.
teleport. kind of.
It seems like the map
Hey.
got broke. I think it only really works for the first player who comes in.
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
one.
it is a little bit broken.
Because of the camera settings.
I saw something move
So,
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We can
because
see
when you go
people
through,
on
it's
the
meant to
map, but
turn
we
off
can't
the
see the
fog.
map itself.
Yeah.
And it didn't turn
There
off the
was a
fog for
button.
others.
There is normally. Oh wait, is there?
Yeah, this button over here disables the fog.
Okay.
Oh.
Guys, over here.
Oh, there we go. Duh.
Now you can actually see the
that's
fucking
nice.
Over here.
Over here. Click disable fog.
There we go.
Turn off the fog, guys. Turn it off.
Much clearer.
Disable fog. So, as you can see, we have not much of a maze. It's just a grid, 3x3, with transitionary spaces. NPC 1 gets to go here. Once you click one of these, NPC 2 gets teleported to this actual thing, and you can see this is a live map. So if someone is running down there, we can see them running, and you can see the group, and you can
Yeah,
try and
it's
put
a
the
camera.
phantom.
No, I'll go down there. I'll test it. How do I?
This is an actual camera.
If I
back to
click
chapter
on
3.
this, I will go down.
No, go back to
teleport
chapter
to
3.
chapter 3.
If you want to run down there,
Yeah.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, give
use
me
your
one.
shortcuts.
Go to chapter.
I will have to pass for I am recording, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I just want to
So
see
I
what
think
people
it
look
brings.
like,
I think the
honestly.
start is here because we can see the button. over
Yes.
Yeah, there's a start.
Yes.
White.
Orthographic
there.
camera.
So we should be able to see Ragnaros run through. There he is.
Whoa, holy.
It's a person. Get him.
Ragnaros.
Get him.
Look at him! Oh my god!
Phantom, go.
He's huge! Why is he so big?
Oh,
I
that's
think so we can
Ragnaros'
see him.
avatars.
Size doesn't matter.
I was going to have it so that the sections of forest moved or shifted in some way. Like whoever was up here had the ability to move pieces of forest around. that ended up being way more work, and I couldn't be bothered. And I thought it already
That's
feels
very
like a maze running
complicated.
through. It's not really necessary. Yeah, so I decided against that, and I just went with this plain grid with just thick.
No, this is fine.
Uh,
This is very good.
yeah, and I've realized we're
it's
actually
amazing.
kind of trapped here. So we're gonna have to go back. Use your world shortcuts to go back to.
Yeah, we
chapter
got
3.
one shortcut. We'll be fine.
Chapter
Oh,
3?
One
Right hand
question.
above
One
head.
question though.
Menu or jump button.
We'll talk about the forest once we're back down. 'Cause I
Okay.
thought-
All right. So everyone teleport.
Yep, everyone teleport.
Man,
You're not John.
Man.
Now, come on.
Man.
Oh, somebody needs to go get Ragnaros.
Man.
Man. Oh, wait.
what?
Thrill, you got a guiding lantern.
Come prepared.
I think you can get.
Back into the forest with me.
Let's go.
All right.
Right. Actually, we'll go over here.
Shall we see if we can find Ragnaros?
You could
So-
probably already see him over.
He's fine. So, something to mention about this map. It was, I think, the last piece of the map that I made because it was really tricky. Because there's a sky and a fog, and that's the same exact color. And the edge of the textures here, it doesn't perfectly match, but I got it as close as Unity would allow me to the color here. So, and on the insides of these as well. So, what we're looking at is like, this is just solid materials, but it looks like it fades off into like just a strange, ambiguous fog. And then there's big planar barriers here that fade off toward the middle here to make it so that you can't see the maps from inside another map. So there's a lot going on here to give the illusion. Actually, if you stand here and look that way, you can see this fade coming out of nowhere and blocking the trees off. There's a lot going on here to give the illusion and like just a seamless connection between all these maps. It's very fiddly. But
Why? Wait.
it looks okay.
Why is it just blank here though? Why isn't it connect?
So every single
transition.
forest section in Vagrant
Like a
Story
transition, yeah.
ends here, and it actually faded off to white.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just a lot
And
of repeats.
I wanted to
and
join
slight
them,
little
but I
edits.
didn't. I would have to do so many textures to manually join all these in the entire forest. So I thought I'll just have a fade of fog between each layer.
Hmm.
And that makes sense. It works.
Yeah, and this is of course the
Sometimes you
part
gotta
where
sacrifice
most people-
fidelity.
So
Yeah,
I
most
saw,
people
I
like run around and burn off steam and stuff in this part of the town.
Oh yeah.
While wandering around here in the forest, I noticed there was a cube to give
I can't hear you.
give
Hang on.
NPC2 power. Yeah. There was a
Yeah?
cube to give NPC2 powers, and then a cube above it to give more NPC2 powers. What does that do?
Yeah. So the reason there are two buttons is because kind of lazy with Udon, and it was easier to just give like one script to one and another script to another than try to figure out how to combine them into the same like Udon action. That's all that is. So one I think makes it so that you have the stun bubble around you, and the other one makes it so that you are the person that gets teleported when NPC 1 clicks a friend of fire on the map. The two main mechanics.
Gotcha.
We're going to go through and talk about the campsite scene at the end, but before that point, any other questions about the forest?
Mechanical question. Yes, the berries and logs.
Berries and logs were modeled by Jake. Legit Jake. for berries and logs. What was your question about them?
The fact that they're randomized every time.
So all that is,
Chicken one
we
of
have
those.
birds. I think there's 15 of each, and they're manually placed, and they're all on to begin with, or they're all off to begin with, and then we have a script that randomly turns them on one by one until we reach a certain count. And that's all it is. So it's just it picks that one and turns that one on, turns that one on, and then it reaches a number, and it's like, okay, no more get turned on, and then we've got randomly generated. So the positioning is always the same. Like, there's always actually, like, for example, I don't know if there is, but just for example, there's like sticks there, but it doesn't get turned on unless the randomizer picks it in that particular run.
Right, and
Rendizo did all that for me.
21 total zones in general, right?
Sorry?
There's
2 in each,
21
like,
of
forest.
these. Yeah.
There's...
Yeah, so
there's
there's
probably
like...
20, because I don't think there's any in the first. So I think there's
okay.
like 20 of each, I think. Okay. Let's go. This way.
Where?
Oh.
Yeah, this is the cubes I was talking about.
Yep. The cube, praise the cube.
Cube power.
Over here.
Yes, I've got another question for this as well.
Another orb right here.
Orb?
Click the fun tour.
Don't do it.
Okay. It says do not
I
click
do
the
have a
fun tour.
question about the last area.
Yeah. Why is everyone looking at
Don't
it? Get
click
away
it right
from
now.
Wait.
I wanted to see what it said.
Stop. No, but the more people that go there, the more people go there.
Just turn the master on so you can get to it. So.
We're gonna go over there
Smiles.
in a second, so.
So, what
Yeah,
is the Phantom anyway? Or did you not really think much more into it than it exists?
The Phantom exists so that we can have a fun minigame. It doesn't have any other relevance to anything in the story.
Fair
It's
enough.
purely it. Yeah.
Thought
Well, if
so.
you wanted to.
Figured I'd ask though.
Yeah. It could be a thing of the prince's fears manifesting and all that. You can hand wave it away.
It could be.
Nah,
It could be.
it's just
Yeah,
a
it could be
legit
because
spooky
the
ghost.
prince actualizes things from his fear. It could be that because he was told there was a phantom in his forest, that he made a phantom in the forest. That could be it.
There you go.
And just know that there's
So
a
let's go
phantom
with
in the
that,
forest.
I don't know. It's a fantasy world.
Writer,
was
editor
there
extraordinaire.
It's a Phantom
Did I hear
Menace.
another question about the forest?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. So, in this part of the story, of course, we do have another tour. Vision. I'll explain that vision to you. I'm aware that this is taking a while. I apologize. There's a lot to talk about.
No worries.
Well, of course.
That's why we're here. We're here because
Vision C. Across a twilit meadow, a pack of black wolves bound, the long grass whipping by. They are on the hunt, following a scent on the cool wind. But the hunters are also hunted. Something else stirs the grass, and though it evades the eyes, its presence can be felt. A sense of something imminently wrong, a feeling that things are not how they should be. A shadow is in pursuit. The black wolves are Dacians. They appear as wolves because that's all the prince hears about. They are aggressive and opportunistic. He hears that they're hunting them down. They're at war, and because the animals that represent the people who live in Lazarus are things like elks and little birds, those are prey. The Dacians, the enemy, are of course predators, and a narcotic predator is a wolf. And
Makes
then
sense.
there is a presence, a shadow, and as we now know, presences of shadow in the tour are the brother. The brother, this is foreshadowing that the brother is going to find a way to infiltrate the Dacians and become one of them, which of course he does. If the prince dives deeper into the vision, the Shadow gets closer and closer, and he thinks it's going to strike, but it doesn't strike. It just becomes one of them. It joins the pack, and then they move on without even realizing that there is an intruder among them. So this vision is really foreshadowing for what's about to happen. And in a way, it's possible that the fact that the prince envisions this makes it easier for the brother to actually do it, even though they never communicate that plan between them. There's some other stuff that happens here. The reason the fire is down there is because the Dacians come out over in that clearing, and it needs to be behind something-ish so that it doesn't get immediately noticed, even though it's smoldering by the time the morning comes. Because they're sleeping down here in that little depression by the rocks, but of course we need space to gather, so we're all up here. Oh, another note while I think of it. Because there are so many leaves and foliage, and because this was all these maps were just one mesh, I handmade 100% of the collisions for all the forest areas. So all the walls around are like hand placed for every single forest map, because I didn't want to pull apart all the forest maps and separate the leaves non-collision from everything else, which is collision. So that was a lot of work doing the collisions for every single forest map, or pretty much every map with trees.
I imagine.
So yeah, that was fun. We'll go to the next map after questions. Any questions before we head out of the forest?
What's the dot?
So, because there's actually two maps here, and if I click this one, boom, daytime. We're in a different mesh, a different map, with a different skybox. It has dawn, and that button gives explorers, like when you're in explorer mode, the ability to do that transition yourself, because the teleport out of here is in the second map, not the first map.
Yes. Remember, we fell and things were all wonky around there, so things were broken for a while. And like there was being like the barrier, it had to be enabled manually, and we were debating whether or not should the barrier be enabled somewhat through explorer mode. And
when we first come in here, there was also an invisible barrier over there, because again I wanted people to be where the princes were, not where the princes weren't, and I didn't want people wandering over there, because that just becomes exponentially like, well, someone's over there, someone's going to go over to tell them to come back, then someone's going to go over there to tell them to come back, and it just becomes like a big snowball of spent time. So it's just easy to block it off and keep everyone here. All right, let's go.
Excuse me. What?
Punch it.
Continue. I like how that one's just called continue, because it doesn't tell you where we're
I
going.
suppose. Speaking of skybox, what is the skybox? It has a very interesting painterly
I
clouds.
pressed the wrong button. Lol.
This skybox is a shader that Tailed got for me. It's specifically a skybox shader. I can get it. I can get the details for you after if you send me a DM or something. I can find it for you.
Sure. I mean, I'm just looking at the effect. It was just kind of like an interesting. It's not doing like a projection. It's like scrolling just a thing across, but.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how it works. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Also, you would notice the tree tops and some of the tree bottoms fade, but it's not transparency, it's dithering. Because transparency wasn't working.
Yes. Very stupid question. In the future, will it be possible for future worlds for tours to be quest compatible? Because there are times like if people are traveling, they have quests, they want to join the tour while they're on quest, in all the worlds of PC only.
Do you mean tours that we've already made, or future tours that we're making?
Future tours. Future tours.
Could be past tours. Yep.
I'm not making any more tours, so I don't. Okay. I can't answer for me, but I can't see it happening because it already takes so long, like many months, to make these things with the amount of detail we're trying to put in to make them quest compatible, even though obviously we want to reach as many people as possible, but that's too much of like a barrier, too much work for us. So I don't foresee any quest compatibility in the future.
Not to mention
hopefully quests just get better over time.
True. And not to mention just there's so many shenanigans that just go on in these two worlds that it's just like
Yeah.
To be specific, I don't know what you mean by shenanigans.
I mean, like, ow. Just slapped by a fish.
You haven't met many
I mean,
quest
like,
users, Alistair. 90% of them are children.
Okay. Minors. I mean,
I know that's not
yeah,
what I was
that's
talking
fine.
about, but yeah, I don't think so. Especially because it's going to be so much more limiting. Like, we try to make things like a bit more spectacular, a bit more immersive.
Yeah,
Doing quest compatibility just means so much stuff has to get shaved back. I don't see it really.
Yeah,
There's a lot of shaders that just straight up don't work.
As you try to make
That's true,
things
but a lot
more
of them
grand
do
and
work.
complicated,
Conversion.
it would be even
I mean,
harder
easy
to make it on
quest,
Quest.
which exists for a reason, but like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. This part of the story, honestly, one of my least favorite points in the story. I'm not a big fan of this part, but yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It exists. There's like, brother distracts and they go chase off after him, and then the prince gets spotted and he runs and he falls into the water, and it's at that point where, depending on how you answer the previous vision, if you answer it correctly, the prince doesn't lose his sword in the river, and that allows him to change the course of the next vision. So that's one of the actual turning points that matter, is what people say to that vision. The rest of it is mostly inconsequential.
Which is detach, right? That's odd.
Yes, you have to detach at that point. If you don't, you're in neutral ending.
Weird, because we detached before, and we still lost the sword. At least that's what I thought. I could be misremembering.
I don't think that's possible. Detach is the answer.
The Inquisitor, right?
Right.
It determines what happens when you're on the hill overlooking Felden. If you don't have the sword, you can't defy him at that point.
Oh.
And then you're stuck in the destroy phase. Alright, let's move through.
Keep the peace.
We'll fix that vertex. So, again, if anyone has played Final Fantasy VI, you would know this music, you know the scene that accompanies it, you know how epic it is. That's obviously not a scene that I can pull off here, but yeah. So this part, we have the prince coming into the river, getting washed into town. We have a town, again, probably half the buildings don't actually exist, like that building there, all the buildings over there that block off the end of the water. Lots of buildings in that direction. There's lots that I had to make and fill to close the gaps, so to speak, between these areas. Not much happens at this point in the story, so we'll just go through.
Oh, current game is...
It's pretty good view.
Okay. Oh,
So, like half the rooftops you see are buildings that I put in manually just to make the place look bigger and to semi-block
That's
the
good.
vision,
Give
fill
the
in
idea
gaps.
it's a bigger, more city rather than simple.
This part of the story is pretty important. So, the the prince he comes across what's essentially like a soup kitchen, I guess, where Dacians have taken over the town, and they are giving rations to the people of Felden. And it's sort of an important scene for a couple reasons, because the prince realizes, like, being royalty and living in a palace his whole life, he doesn't really know what it's like to just live outside of that. And then he meets a lot of vulnerable people on his journey, like people who are old, people who are sick and things like that. And there's this very frail, old, lovely woman that comes in and like wants more for a dog. And of course there was a dog trying to eat the prince's leg when he comes out of the river. Could be the same one, who knows. And the Dacian is like, all right, I'll give you more, and here's a stick. Like, here's a walking stick to help you out. And that humanizes the Dacians, which up until this point had just, I mean, they were likened to wolves. They were almost dehumanized by the brothers' hatred of them and what other people were saying about them. It turns them from this like weird sort of amorphous enemy to like actual humans that have their own values and beliefs and struggles. And that sort of makes it really, it gives a lot of perspective to the prince, because at this point he's like, oh, like, these are just humans, like, these people are suffering, and the Dacians are just like helping the people of Feldenat who are apparently hungry. So it's like a big like awakening moment for the prince at this point. And then of course he bumps into zealots who are already here, because of course they are. And then he gets taken away this way. Yeah, all that out there was just open, so I had to fill it in with buildings.
Wow.
There's actually a lot of detail right out there, considering we just run past it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you run past it. There's a whole like beautiful like garden area, and like there's a water down there. There's houses down there. You just run past it. Even like the tower over there, like the bell tower.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know the little bell tower.
And you'll notice the buildings here are grey. The buildings in Moravos were yellow. You can see I missed a chimney up there. That's the yellow of the Moravos sandstone.
Oh, yeah.
I missed one.
Yeah, they do color
but the rest of it, I actually manually changed it so that it was a different color, so it felt like a different place.
Yeah, there was more yellow. This is more gray and green.
Yeah.
I will never be able to
Right,
not
hidden
see
temple.
that now.
Come on down, let's go straight through.
Hey, Jim. I gotta get going. It's getting late and my batteries are dying, so I'll catch you later.
No worries. Good to see you later.
Alright, see you, Leon.
Yep.
Bye, guys. I gotta go. See you.
Take care.
It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye, Leo.
Farewell, Leon.
So this.
Yes. One of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
This is a fun little scene, a fun little map. This is the point where we really directly meet the Inquisitor, and he has his little monologue. So, there's a couple of things to say about the design of this map first. First of all, of course it has to be underground, because underground represents like a downward trend in the story when things get darker and more desperate. And not only that, but we have a unique lighting in this map. The lighting is green. Like, even though the candles, they're like actual orange textures, the light that comes from them is like this really off yellowish green. And if you're interested in game design, you'll know that this kind of off yellowish green is usually used to denote like things that are corrupt, like poison or rot or zombies or undead or things of that nature. So the fact that we're in a place with like off green candles really drills in a like something we haven't seen before, this kind of lighting, but also like this place is wrong. Like, it's not the normal reliable orange firelight. There's no moonlight, there's no daylight. It's just green flames, and that really makes it feel just off and wrong somehow. And then, of course, we have the walls aligned with zealots, and we have the prince come in, and the Inquisitor himself is here, and we have that beautiful march music. Where is it from? Suikoden 2. This one? No, it's this one. There it is. This is the theme of Luca Blight from Suikoden 2, who is an absolutely monstrous villain. One of the inspirations for the Inquisitor, actually. There's a lot of lore at this point. This is obviously a fairly pivotal point in the story. The Inquisitor explains a lot, and it's the first time that we actually hear the Inquisitor's side of things. And he's like, well, we're both chosen. I don't actually want to kill you. I want you to join me, because the Inquisitor recognizes the power of the prince. And the Inquisitor's like, well, it's better that I weaponize this kid instead of trying to fight and accidentally become on the receiving end of his insane powers. The Inquisitor recognizes that, and he's smart, so he tries to recruit the prince and tries to find common ground. And even turns his brother against him. It's like, oh, I want to end Dacians. Your brother hates Dacians. Like, think about what your brother would do if he was here. He'll be like, yes, let's get the Dacians. And the prince just gets manipulated in that way by this very cunning, very formidable opponent that he's facing. And it's also the point where the prince kind of realizes that his visions bring about the events. He's not just seeing them, he's causing them. And the Inquisitor takes advantage of the shock of that moment, and he's like, oh, well, like, people don't like you. I know that you feel useless, but actually you're the most useful person in the world to me, and I have something for you. Where is it? I have a crown for you. And then a crown drops down from the ceiling. And this crown, of course, is part of a conspiracy between the Inquisitor and the Queen to control the prince's power. So the Queen has the Master Crown that has influence over the, I guess you could call them slave crowns. And if they knew that the brother was like Shadowborn and had that power, they would be trying to give him a crown as well. But because the brother hides it so well, they don't even know that, so the prince becomes the main focus and the recipient of this crown. And of course there's nothing you can do to not wear the crown in the story. It's kind of essential. So the crown not only makes the wearer subject to the influence of the Master Crown, which is the Queen, it also amplifies the power. It gives a sort of increased awareness of it, and of course the more awareness you have over such a power, the more power you would get from it. And from this point, there is a voice occasionally in the prince's head, especially in the neutral ending and such. That is the Queen talking to him. So those things that the Queen says, the stuff like, you know, nobody wants you, all that kind of stuff. Where is it? Yeah, this is divine justice, divine judgment. Give this miracle to me. You aren't using it. You're a failure, a waste of breath, a waste of everybody's time. The kingdom doesn't need you. Your family doesn't need you. Nobody needs you. Let me go. Not even I want you. That's his mother talking to him. That's the Queen saying that to him. Saying like, I would rather have my son's power than my son. Which...
That's fucked.
It's pretty nasty. Like, she's like the villain under the villain in this story. It's very understated, but it's pretty messed up. Yeah.
Wait, where did you pull that text from? Was that in the tour? That she says that?
In the neutral ending.
In the neutral ending.
In the neutral ending, when we're on top of that like fire tower thing,
yeah,
and there's that big magic circle, and the prince is completely within his own head. It's just him, and he doesn't realize it, but it's his mother talking to him in his head. And the prince is breaking down, and the mother's just telling like, trying to break him and be like, no, give this body, give this power to me. Like I want to use this fully, because in her mind, such a power will make the kingdom completely secure. Like no one is ever going to mess with Lazarus again. It's going to become the ultimate kingdom, like an empire even. So in her mind, it's like, okay, I lose a son, my kingdom never dies. That's the transaction that she thinks she's making.
Too bad there's another entity that kind of steps in and says hello.
There is another.
Mm-hmm.
So we go next to... Oh, it's already here, isn't it? We're going to go to the hilltop overlooking Felden.
Hilltop where you can just go float off of the bridge.
Ah, yeah, this.
Yeah, so the priority of this map was to give everyone a potential view of Felden, so I kind of ignored the mesh terrain and just overrode that, and I was like, no, it's more important that people can get a good view. Yeah. And I have an insane amount of buttons around me. I have like 25, 30 buttons around, so this is a very intimidating place for me to sit.
I have a very quick question. Because you're normally in desktop, and we have the same graphics card. Now that you're in VR, do you see all the little seams in the sky that I do?
Seams?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No one knows what I'm talking about.
I see them.
Oh, someone sees them.
I see them.
I see them too.
Your skybox is broken.
It's not super. It depends on your resolution.
It's down near that line. Down near the
maybe,
horizon.
yeah, maybe it's a resolution thing. I have my graphics pretty low, so it might be something that I just can't see because my graphics setting.
Yeah, my resolution's not that high.
They're fairly subtle. There's like it's probably like a transparency, like a texture thing, where like it's pulling from somewhere that's not supposed to. But you can see the polygons that make up the sky sphere.
But it doesn't matter. I love this place.
Yeah, it looks fine to me, and it looked fine to the person with a different graphics card that I tested it with. So, I mean,
I think I noticed
Fair
some
enough.
details that
This
some
way.
people don't notice.
yeah.
You're fine, Panic.
So this is of course
Alex
where
Battaglia.
this is where the neutral ending pretty much takes its ending. I can put on this one in the background. So we have the sad music coming in. The heavens fall down and destroy the town of Felden, which is that town right there in the distance. We can start seeing the sparkles. Actually inspired by a scene from Chrono Trigger when Lavos breaks out in the 1999. That's kind of what inspired the way to approach this scene. This music is from a beautiful game called Rime, R-I-M-E, and it's very, very beautiful, heartfelt music. I wanted to use it for this section. What else can
I will say, as far as a traveler goes, this scene hit the hardest as you failed.
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
this really rubs it in. The explosions happen
Not just you
after a
failed,
moment.
you failed, and hundreds of thousands of people died.
Yeah, and not only that, but like the fact that we then go inside the prince's mind as he breaks, the implication is that he stays in there and he continues being a weapon used by Lazarus to do more of this. So it's not just this here, but it's what it says about the future. This is going to keep happening, and he has no choice in the matter. So it's really quite a horrible fate.
Yeah. This and all the
It
stuff
really
Mother
is.
said at the
This
very
was
end really
neutral.
kind of motivated me to focus on
This
trying
is
to
the
figure out how to
neutral
get
ending.
out of this.
It's only
Yeah,
neutral
it
because
can
the
only
prince
get
is still
worse.
I
alive.
think your understanding of
Brother's still
neutral
alive.
is different from mine. This seems like a pretty bad ending.
I mean,
yeah.
I may end up showing you the other ending that no one's gotten yet, so we'll see how we go.
Okay, there's an ending we didn't find.
There's another ending that hasn't been seen. There it is. Oh,
Wow. There it goes. Oh, I also noticed
And
there's
it's timed with the
transparency
music
issue.
as well. No, that's the way it's lighting the polygons of the dome.
Oh, the polygons.
I've never even noticed that before.
Yeah, 'cause it's not perfectly smooth.
I saw that.
And then it goes, oh, no. Normally, I actually hit a button to make the white fade in, but I haven't hit that, so we just see it end anticlimactically. It doesn't do anything.
It's just...
And it
Imagine.
Yep, so normally at this point, I've hit, like, as the star's halfway down, I hit this button, the white starts to fade in, but...
And it just kind of lands there.
Yeah.
So
It's
it
chilling.
won't take us to the neutral ending, because that's fiddly to come back here, so we'll instead go to this one. Alternative endings unlocked. Over here, let's go. Oh, wait.
Alternative ending. What?
No, we'll go through. We'll go through.
Oh, yes, this speech.
Show me.
All these really made the Dacians seem like, good people. Like, they're actually not bad, right?
It seems more like just... Yeah.
I mean, people are just people,
True.
So, any questions about the last map first?
Dunno.
Okay.
Right.
Oh,
When
yes,
the-
yes,
when the
I did have
place
one
gets
question.
destroyed,
What's the
Does
bad
the story
ending?
just end there?
Neutral.
When
Yes.
the,
Oh,
you
bad
know, when
endings
it
coming
just
up.
ends
So
there,
the
right?
neutral
That
ending, when Felden is
Yeah.
destroyed and the white light fades in, there's actually another map, invisible map around us. The mesh turns off, the new mesh turns on, and we're back on
Yeah.
Lake Fort, but it's more like the moment that Lake Fort is being destroyed rather than the aftermath. So we're sitting on like a destroyed tower that's being swallowed by the earth and sea. And then we have like the scene where the prince is basically just losing control of himself as his mother is in his head, like manipulating him.
Oh shit.
That's the
Alright,
very
then.
ending, the neutral ending. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But we've gone down the
Ethan had
ultimate
a
path.
question.
We've met the Dacians. And there is, of course,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scene at the end of the last one where there's a Dacian that comes up the hill with like a dent in his helmet. And you know where that is. That guy is the Dacian that was outside the gate that the brother threw a rock at so hard that it dented the helmet. And then they chased the brother. And then the brother like got one of them down, knocked him out, or maybe killed him, took the armor and has the dented helmet on still. So like if you really pay attention, that's how you know it's the brother from the start. But you find out a few seconds later, so it's not a massive twist. Yeah,
My
more
question.
Yes.
Where the heck did the investigator, the Inquisitor go
Inquisitor?
when he was just whished away? Yeah. Where did the Inquisitor go?
Specifically, we don't know, but we do know that it was close enough to Elazareth to get back in. And because the Inquisitor is actually working with the Queen, which we don't know at the time, of course he just gets right back in there. So that's all we do. We don't know specifically.
Gotcha.
Because the
Darn, I
because the
thought
prince
you
was
would
like
be-
panicking and just trying to make him go away, the prince is probably thinking of somewhere that was some sort of close to home.
Gotcha. Darn. So he just got RNG'd into a good spot. You could have easily been dropped to the
basically.
core.
The Inquisitor has a spawn point set. More questions? You have a question?
No, not yet.
Okay. And of course, at this point, it's where we sort of get to know another major character, which is the Dacian commander, which kind of represents the Dacians at this point. He has quite a bit of authority in the Dacian War. Was that a question over here? No? Okay. And we have the prince actually stepping up a bit and being like, wait a minute, I'm in a position where I have Dacians here. Whatever I like, I've just realized my power. I can tell them stuff. I can actually influence events here. He really starts getting that sense of being empowered and like instilled with a bit of confidence in himself. And it really starts to shape events once he actually takes hold of the steering wheel of his life. That's when the story actually starts to change, which is fairly major, considering that the character's been so utterly meek up to this point. Like, just going along with anything. He barely even says anything up to this point. Like, the amount of words he says out loud, you can count on, like, both hands and feet. Like, he's actually very, very passive for a main character. But because we're in his conflict so much, that's how we engage with him, rather than having him sort of talk and interact with people a lot. The brother does the talking and interacting. The prince just follows along. And then, of course, we have him where he tells the commander, like, oh, actually, the Inquisitors destroyed Lakefort. The Inquisitors are all dead. I can show you their bodies. Because he knows that they all got burned in the release of energy that happened in the hidden temple. So, and then there's a big time skip here, which is, I don't normally like to do, but I just had to keep the story down. So it's implied that they go to the hidden temple, they go down, they see the bodies, and then they make their way to Elazareth with the intent to sue for peace now that the zealots are gone. Or gone. So we're going to... I need to hit this button. Whoop. Is it over? No, I didn't hit it. I missed. Okay, so that's going to take us back to the palace. Before we go back to the palace, any questions about this section?
What game are these assets from, by the way, in this area?
This is Vagrant Story as well. The reason the reason it looks so different to the other places is because this is a cutscene of Vagrant Story. This is like the actual parts of the town. Everything's much smaller and condensed. This is obviously really detailed. You can see actual like storefronts and railing and signs and
Ah,
kind of stuff.
that makes
That's why it looks
sense.
so different. Yep, it's all Vagrant Story. And that house
So
is like the whatever government building there is in Felden.
am I to take it from the fact that you just ran over there to hit that the like all the transition stuff like isn't on like the menu, it's just like floating around you, like, and that's why you like go to those specific places?
So,
okay, I see.
in
Okay, that
Shane's
makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay.
He likes stuff in menus. I like stuff in the world because I stand up there at the top of the steps and I have a bright orange button up there that says like unlock teleport.
I see.
And I hit that and it makes that.
I see.
I like
see.
it in
So
the
that's
world.
why you like stand in the same place every time for that reason. Okay.
Yeah, I would show you, but I literally have no way of showing you because it's tied to my username.
Of course.
Otherwise, I would. I'd be like, oh, here's the controls.
No, I understand.
It works.
I could take a picture next time I have like a big mess of controls. I can take a picture of that picture. Here's what the controls look like. It's literally just balls of color. But yeah, we'll go through the next map.
I guess it works.
I think Gene mentioned that he was like, yeah, he's just got balls all around him.
Spooky, scary.
Attack me if you
this
dare.
Skeletons and shivers and just...
Yeah.
Down here, sorry.
Wait, Jim.
So-
So the little balls, they basically have like the backup option in case one teleporter doesn't work or something?
No.
Oh, okay.
All I have is these balls. They're color coded. So orange means it's going to open a teleporter or like manipulate objects in the world. Blue means it's going to change music. Green means it is a fade out for music, and just like and so on. I think
Okay.
yellow is like a cutscene or something. So this map, there's a big jump in the story back there, which is why it's one of the slower fade outs that happens. And then we have like this is the front courtyard to the prince's home, the palace. But of course, it's not very welcoming. The music is eerie. There's like ominous light everywhere, and I have this contrast again of like orange light on one side and just plain moonlight on the other side that's coming in. Again, I want that contrast of like different lighting styles that represent different things. And in the story, we have the Silver Aegis up here, who is the last thing they have to go through before the Queen. And of course, it's not the Silver Aegis, it's it's the Inquisitor. So the Inquisitor's already here, and he's got his fingers in everything. He's like, he's basically looking across this group and being like, well, how can I take advantage of this situation? The Silver Aegis does give like a lingering look to the helmeted Dacian, so we can perhaps infer that at this point the Inquisitor notices that the brother is secretly among them, so he's like, oh, I've got both brothers just came back to me, this is perfect. Like, to him it's all just falling into place. Which is why the Silver Aegis, the Inquisitor, is pretty resistant. He's like, well, I'm going to take the prince to the queen first. And then the commander, the Dacian commander, is like, well, would it be okay if I sent someone in to confirm, like, someone as a witness? Which is what the Inquisitor was hoping for, rather than being like, that guy with the helmet, come in with me. You make it the commander's idea so that it doesn't appear suspicious at all. And then the Silver Aegis just feigns apathy and is like, yep, him, come through. But he knows he's bringing the brother in. But he makes it look like it's the commander's idea. It's very manipulative. I don't think there's anything. There's a black sky, featureless. I don't use the featureless skies very often, but in this one I wanted nothing. Just like an empty void.
Yeah.
You never see stars, you never see the night sky in this. You see like nighttime, but you never see the actual night sky.
Interesting to know.
Yeah, which makes it juicier when the blood moon comes out. Just pretend I didn't say that. Okay, any questions about this area before we go through the palace?
Why so many rooms in the palace? Sorry, that's the next
Suspense.
section.
Suspense. I wanted to build up that, like, oh, there's another room, oh, there's another room. And also, like, sometimes I stop before a door and people, if they're new, they're going to be like, is there going to be, like, a boss here? Because this is a big room.
Yes, Smiles.
Oh, yeah.
This is from a cutscene.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Vagrant story. I think it's the first map that you're in.
The very first cutscene. You dare attack me?
There's a couple of, like, boxes that you hide behind over there or something.
Yeah, the main character hides behind a few boxes there.
The window glow I added. The game has none of this window glow.
Yeah, you put in missions.
What that is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just a mission mask. And a bit of bloom. I wanted this ominous, like, I wanted this, again, feeling of just people could be watching all around. Just all these lit windows, even though it's his home, it feels very hostile.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. It's like I'm surrounded by crowds.
Let's go. I know that's pretty high. You should be able to reach it from a good distance, though.
Yes.
And then we have...
There's a dragon in here.
This map, we have the statues from the start, from the very second room that we come across, but these ones are whole, which indicates a contrast that something has changed between the start and now. There's, like, the religion isn't defaced, like something's happening. It's different. And the contrasted with the stained glass windows behind it really gives it, like, and the fact that the facade looks more like a cathedral than a palace, it really drills in, like, there's been a switch in Lazarus. There's been, like, a change in power. It's not so much about royalty anymore. It's like the Varnha church is getting corrupted and it's getting more involved in things. So it's really, like, even though we come through here for like 2 seconds, this room is pretty symbolic of change that's happening.
I love subliminal messages.
Suspense room
Purple
number 1.
rug.
Big empty room.
I mean,
number 1.
all the doors.
Start walking.
Big empty room number 2.
Big empty room
number 2
number
with
2.
a red carpet, which is unique because I wanted people
Whoa,
to think
red
there's something
carpet.
going to happen here. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, good point.
I definitely did take note of the carpet.
Yeah, it's different.
I think that's actually the first red carpet we've seen.
The throne room. This is a good point to
Yay,
take a
this
picture of
room.
these
Battle time.
your avatars.
And the
so
use of colored lighting.
Ah.
Even though not all avatars supported colored lighting.
I'm gonna chuck this picture in the Prince channel.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Excuse me.
As I immediately pull up tourist chat.
So I just dropped a picture in the Prince channel. You can see the amount of
Oh, the
controls
Prince
I
channel.
have. I either go left to right or right to left, depending on the map. So the orange one you can see is manipulating objects in the world. The green one is always fade out, so I can make it go fade. The red one starts the Blood Moon cutscene. That's unique color. The cyan ones are music cues, and the orange ones over on the left are the different endings. So if I hit this one,
Did
we
it
get the
cover
Inquisitor's theme back again.
accent?
Sorry?
Did they cover any? Because I was in your way. To the right of you.
No, they're just here. You're good. I can turn the Blood Moon on, and the red can start coming in. So those windows actually change color. Like there's a hue shift that happens that the window's animated, and there's of course light here that changes color, and the God rays change color as well. There's no post-processing. It's just lighting and textures and shaders that are changing.
Nice.
The avatar
and then, of
shaders
course,
have to
there's-
support colored lighting.
No, of course.
There's this amazing music that I found, which is from Lost Odyssey. I believe it's the final boss theme, Roar of the Departed. Love this. When I first heard it, I was like, this has got to be the fight with the Inquisitor. Especially because there's a point later in where someone starts like rapping in Japanese, and someone in the comments section of that video said, that point in the song sounds like someone casting the longest spell ever. And I was like, oh my god, I love that. So that's like a big reason why I used it. It's so it's a good combination of like panic and power, but also it has those sort of mystical religious undertones that I wanted without it being too religious. There's a bit of metal in there as well, because why not?
Oh yeah.
This point in the story is, of course, there's a couple of major twists. We find out that the Helmeted Dacian is the brother. We find out that the Silver Aegis is the Inquisitor, and was the Inquisitor the whole time. Because he says, the Silver Aegis made the perfect disguise because the only person who would know that the Silver Aegis is dead is the brother, and the brother is not going to tell anyone that the Silver Aegis is dead, because otherwise that would lead to people discovering that he killed the Silver Aegis. So it was the perfect disguise for him to take. And he boasts about that quite openly. And of course we have the Queen on the throne. I know there's no throne. I wasn't going to build that.
I ran out of
course
I
it's
ran
not
out
the
of
Queen.
space.
Porcelain. Oh no.
Oh.
Who else is
Tech
recording?
Nerd, your recording's it. My God, pork.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I know we've got another pack. You still recording?
Yes.
Okay,
Nice,
good.
Cool. Okay.
I'm going for it too.
No worries. Boy, I talk a lot.
Shoot.
So
Sorry about that.
yeah, we have the Queen. The Queen is porcelain, fake. It's not the actual master crown. It's just a slave crown. The reason she's porcelain, I'll leave you to ponder on that. If you've seen The Archaeologist, you might have some theories, but we'll see. The battle itself, I wanted a certain structure to this battle. Oh, I got messages from Machine. He's fine. Sun came out. Yep, everything's good. Yeah, so for the combat, the way I wanted it designed was that there are a sequence of actions that the... oh, he's going to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sequence of actions that come in. The Inquisitor acts and we react. Oh, I love this part. And I wanted it so that there's pretty much one right thing to do, and as long as you include the right components and sort of the right goals, it'll work out. You don't have to specifically say, you know, do this move and then that move. It's just like, use this item in this way. Anything else is destined to like just a fail save. The first, I think, 3 or 4 stages you can fail without consequence. So, okay, round 1, you can fail. Round 2, you can fail. Round 3, if you fail it, is bad ending B. Round 4, you can fail. Round 5 is bad ending A. Round 6 is bad ending C. Those bad endings are basically the prince dies, the brother dies, or they both die. And those are the 3 possible combinations. We've seen one where the brother dies, where we hear of the prince's destiny. He's kept in a little room and basically just brought out for war. We hear one where both die, which is a fairly abrupt ending, but we never got the ending where just the prince dies and then the brother is the only point of view we have. I think it would be fun if I don't tell you what that ending includes, but I do take you to the map and you can wonder, because we're probably going to do a read.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Now we know what ending to go for the next time.
Yep.
Yeah, so
now we know how to do it.
We were tempted
So you have to fail the second to last action. So we're going to go over here. Wait, do I have to clear? No, so we're going to go over here. We're going to go on through.
Oh.
Oh.
Blood moon.
Oh.
We're here, and that's there.
Oh no.
Oh my.
Oh, the blood moon.
Here's a question.
The blood.
But I'm not going to tell you what happens here.
I'm not going to take any pictures.
The blood moon is there for a lot of different tunes. Does that
If
have
you
any
want to know what the
significant
blood moon's
meaning, or is
about,
it just
I
blood moon for the
suggest
sake of
you
blood moon?
look up the... I think it's pinned in the Travelers chat about the archives. That gives like a bunch of lore, and that explains what the blood moon is.
And don't forget, this was in Trajan's library for the, the
It's
ending
from the
of season
finale.
2.
Trajan's library.
Indeed.
Yes.
So this is the bad ending A, and over here is the music. Which is, of course, sad music. Can't imagine why. But I'm not going to tell you what happens. We're going to wait until we do a fixed ending. Because it's probably going to do a rerun next time I do this, so you probably won't have to do the trial and error. We'll just say today's bad ending A or something. And then you'll know.
Yep, we'll know.
And then you'll know. But we're not going to stay here, because this is terrible. Does everybody see, if you go back into your menu, the finale teleport?
I do.
Wait. How do I do it? I have to tell. I can't remember.
Tab, if you're in desktop mode.
Oh my god. Okay, I see it.
Yep, so go to finale, guys. Everyone go to finale.
Oh, it just takes us back here. Okay.
Dun 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 dun.
Press everything with P on my
It's so interesting how like it transitions back into red.
Oh yeah.
Snap into being
Yeah, because there's nothing to reverse what I did, so some of the stuff reset, some of the stuff didn't. Oh, it did just reactivate all the red animation.
just a side effect.
I mean, we never come back here, so why? So why try?
It's a
You know,
gray square.
There is a gray square in the sky.
Over there.
Oh my god.
So
Something's glowing over there
I
too.
guess I forgot to put a roof on this place. That is the.
Time to nip it.
No, it's really.
Oh no, that's spawn.
Nope.
I think that's.
Is that spawn?
Yes, that's spawn. That's the water, and that grey platform above spawn. That grey platform is where I tested a bunch of udon stuff.
I see.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Does
just
it have
don't look at that.
colliders?
Looks into
Yeah,
it.
just.
Yeah, because we went there in game to test like buttons and stuff for NPC controls. I think that's where we're testing like the.
Oh, cool. So we could just fly there. Or
I was
is
so
there
worried.
a collider that
Trying to start looking at me.
prevents
You
us
could
from
fly
flying
there,
up there?
but I'm not going to wait for you, so you're going to get lost.
Okay.
Any questions about this before we go to the good ending room?
I think I'm good.
like the red.
Ooh. So if that's not the real queen, where's the queen?
The queen.
The queen.
Let me
Queen.
check.
Doesn't have his own story memory.
Do you know the way?
I just want to make sure that it's. I'm not going to say anything from bad ending A before I answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's revealed mostly in bad ending C. No, bad ending B. No, it's revealed in the good ending. So from when we get to the good ending, the queen was found elsewhere in the castle with a master crown, like remotely controlling things, somewhere safe, probably because she didn't want to be in the path of danger. And from the brother's point of view, she's like sick, and they're trying to help her, and she's like, well, she's. I think they say that she's in the tower. I think. Yeah, and
Well,
then they
she
say
is
that like
sick,
they're going to
but,
cure
you
their
know.
mother one day because they think that, yeah, she is. They think that they don't see their mother as like an actual villain. They see her as like, well, she was used by the Inquisitor. She needs help. There's something like curable wrong with her that we need to fix. That's their perspective on it, or at least what the brother says. So she is nearby.
Okay, right.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Let's. Yeah.
Oh.
Is that... I know that the story ends there, but doesn't that mean if that woman's still around, wouldn't that be like a concern?
In the good ending?
Kizzy.
Yeah.
In the good ending, she's locked away.
Oh, she's locked away.
She's like detained. Yeah. I don't remember if it made it into the final script, but there was a point where they referenced that she's in a tower where like mad people are kept. It's like a tower for people who are unsafe. Yeah.
The Tower of the Insane.
An asylum tower or something like that. So we're gonna go to the good ending, which is over this side.
Long teleport.
And we have the final cutscene. We have a beautiful AI-generated city. Because I wasn't going to paint that by hand. I couldn't find a texture for it. Yeah.
Wait, so you used ChatGPT to program this?
Yeah, use ChatGPT.
It wasn't ChatGPT. It was some other. I think it was Stable Diffusion due to that background texture.
No, really? You use Stable Diffusion to create?
Yeah, that's
I used
actually
Stable
really
Diffusion
good.
for the poster as well, like the princes and the tower art. Stable Diffusion. I mean, I modified it a bunch, I like used my artistic skills to make it look good, but yeah, used AI assisted art. So in this point, we have the part. There's a bit of a time skip again, and the brother has become king. He's actually taken his place, his rightful place. He's no longer the heir, and the prince is still kind of potting around, doesn't really have a place. I guess I don't really need to summarize the events that happen, or probably have more impact when you go through. But there is a lot of... this is the point in the story where the... because there are two protagonists. Both brothers are protagonists. We only have the point of view of one of them, except for Bad Ending A, because I wanted us to be in one mind, even though we're following two brothers. And this is the point where, like, the brothers kind of acknowledge that things are really messed up, and yet the older brother, the king, has found a way to find hope again, which has been absent for pretty much this entire tour. Like, there's nothing about hope up until this point. It's just people reacting to things, people acting based on emotional ignorance, or just making poor decisions, or being forced to make poor decisions. There isn't really, until this point, any of that like any of that sense of, I think we can really, like, I really truly believe that we can make good come of this. This is the first point in the story where that notion is even brought up. And of course it's represented by the cutscene that happens, which, let's see, I don't remember the order to push these in. Hang on, where are my notes? This one, okay. So for the first time in the story, I intentionally withheld blue sky for the whole story, purely for this moment, where you get to see the blue sky and the sun, and it shines down on everyone. And this is like the first moment where you're really truly bathed in like sunlight, which represents, I mean it really represents hope. It's been absent this whole time. It's what's been missing in it. It's kind of, it's sort of, I used sunlight as a symbol for hope because with all the things that cause people to become trapped in despair, like being stuck indoors, or feeling alone or isolated or anxious, or all these things, there are so many things that we do to distract ourselves. Like, we can use games or movies or media or VR and all these different ways to sort of replace things that are missing in our lives. But the one thing that can never be replaced is the feeling of standing in actual sunlight, in fresh air. There is no substitute for that. It is irreplaceable. It is, I would go so far as to say, it is something that is sacred. Like, it is just something that we can, in my opinion, we can never hope to replicate. The feeling of standing outdoors in the sun, you cannot replicate. It is the most grounding thing, and that's why I chose to use it to symbolize hope in this story, because that's that's what I believe about the sun.
And it's also medically proven that sunlight literally just does that for you.
Makes you feel.
I mean, there have been actual studies that
sunlight's amazing.
Yeah, being in sunlight helps not cure, but at least lessen things like depression and whatnot. It's actually been
sunlight's
proven.
Amazing. And this is like a nod to that fact, among other things. That's why I use sunlight. And it's also like, it's a trope, right? The sun comes out, everything's okay. But I think that's why people really relate to that trope, is because the sun actually does have that power. And of course there's really nice music, which There's actually 2 songs that play here. This music is from Violet Evergarden, which, if you want to watch an anime to just like make you cry, I would suggest this one. It's very heartfelt.
I love
and beautiful music, just in complete contrast to everything else in the tour. Just beautiful, hopeful music that soars. And then, of course, I can hit that to have like the end. Just this complete sense of finality. And there's also yeah. The music keeps going, but it's like very soft. And then at the end, they're basically like the brother offers his hand, the king offers his hand. It says in the script the king looks back, and it's the first time the brother's referred to as the king, so he really takes his place. And he offers his hand, and the prince takes it. And that's just symbolic of just everything has come to a close. Like, they're brothers again, they've reunited, they have hope. The kingdom has a future, and all those people that we've met, all those people who are vulnerable and in war and sick, all those people now have hope in the form of these 2 brothers. Any
really
questions?
Beautiful story.
Thank you. I struggle to, when I start talking about it or thinking about it a lot, it almost always like starts to make me cry because it's very close to my heart. Like, I think I might have mentioned this to some other people before. The relationship between the brothers is inspired by my relationship with my own brother. I'm the older brother and he's the younger brother. So in a way, writing this story from the younger brother's viewpoint was a way of sort of putting myself in my shoes of the younger brother, and the way that, like, as a younger brother, you like idolize people who are above you, like whether it's a parent or a mentor or like an older brother or sister, you like idolize people. And I really tried to put myself in that, and the way that the older brother is initially seen as perfect by the younger brother, but ultimately is very, very flawed and human as the story progresses. That's kind of like the way I see in my own life that my younger brother went from idolizing me to realizing that I just make mistakes like everyone else. I'm full of flaws and weaknesses, and I have strengths to balance it out and stuff. And that coming to terms with someone's humanness and accepting it is like what truly makes that relationship special.
Yeah,
exactly.
No one's perfect, because coming from my point of view, I lost my brother. I was the young one, but I lost my brother in 2011, and I looked up to him, a lot. He had it made. He had life figured out. I looked up to him, and I lost him. It's kind of a difficult time, in my life back then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm
I think
flawed. He was flawed, but no one's perfect. I can't. There's no
absolutely
like no one can make any perfect and no mistakes, nothing. No, that's not possible. People make mistakes.
Yeah,
they're flawed.
Yeah, that's why. That's actually a really good point, because I didn't want to have any sort of message in this story about like, oh, this person actually was the hero, and they actually didn't make any mistakes. Like, I wanted to avoid that, and I wanted to have very human characters who, like, by the end of the story, the brother doesn't even, like, he doesn't list off his mistakes or like, he doesn't express like a huge amount of guilt, but he also doesn't do the opposite. He doesn't like deny and minimize. He just sort of lets his history be his history. And that was a very, very much a conscious choice for me, because I think ultimately sometimes we can get so distracted trying to make ourselves or other people look better or worse because we're so preoccupied with how we're perceived, when really, like, your past is your past. What you did is what you did. There's literally nothing you can do about it until you discover a time machine. Like, you have no choice but to accept it. And if you don't accept it, you're setting yourself up for like a world of pain. So that was a very much a conscious choice in this story to just be like, this is how I believe that one's history should be lived. You just look at it and be like, okay, this is what made me who I am. I'm moving forward from that. Any more questions?
No.
It's absolutely beautiful, Treasure.
Isn't there another track that
Go ahead,
plays
go
here?
ahead.
Yeah, this one plays when the brother starts talking.
Isn't this also from
This
the
is
library?
I have an ultimate question.
It's from Suikoden 2, and I've used this music in. It's either in the library or it's in the library, one of the two. Like My World, the library, or the Rendezvous.
Yes, this is in the library.
It's in the
Rendezvous library.
Yeah, this is a Rendezvous library.
And like
I was wondering if there's.
This is from Suikoden 2. This is like a remix of it. It's not. It's just because I love the song so much. It's not connected to the Rendezvous. It's just like I couldn't find a better song to fit this moment. This sort of like bittersweet, like shy hopefulness that this song brings up to me. It's just I couldn't find a better one.
It's peaceful.
It is.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Any more questions or comments or anything?
How about
Because
we get-
this is pretty much the end.
How will we get a screenshot?
Oh.
Mabel, you have a question?
So, yeah. You mentioned how many hours you've put into this. How do you see it through to the end, and how do you not get bogged down and make things perfect? Because it seems like you have a lot of details here, a lot of really great details. How do you balance that with seeing it through the end?
Oh boy. That's a really good question. That's a big one.
That's a very big one.
I think the honest answer is that I don't. Like, I pointed them out. You saw I did make mistakes. The perfectionism is not a strength or weakness. It's a tool. If you use one tool too often, you miss the opportunity to utilize other tools. So for me, it was a case of like allowing some perfectionism in and allowing myself to spend like 100 hours fine-tuning the city of Moravos, whatever it was, and then coming to a point where it's like, okay, without judging myself for being perfectionistic, I'm now choosing to ignore that perfectionism and decide that it's done. I'm just like, okay, it has to be a conscious choice. I'm saying it's done. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, I'm gonna want to keep working on it. But I'm deciding that it's done and I'm moving on from it. So there isn't any of that like finding a magic way to bypass the struggle. Like, you can't. You just have to embrace the struggle. It's going to be a struggle no matter what. And
I think that's a really great. I think that's a really great way of looking at it. That's all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the reasons why I've decided to stop making tours as well. As the last announcement said, this was my last one, and it's all I'm going to do. I didn't say this at the start, but when I started working on this story, I always had an idea for two brothers. I always had an idea of them having some sort of struggle against like a dark, oppressive environment and story. I rewrote the story so many times. I came pretty close to using Trail's assets, as Nick would know. We talked about that at one point. Ultimately decided on Vagrant's story instead, but I think I wrote like I planned maybe 4 or 5 pretty different tours before I settled on this story. And that took quite a lot of time. One of the ideas I had, an early idea, was that there would be like a childhood phase, like a time skip 5 years, and then there would be like a young adult phase. And whatever you did in the first phase influenced the second phase. And I had another idea where like the prince was more of a mage, and you could choose which spells to learn, and that would influence the choices you could make later on. So I had all these ideas that I tried them, but I didn't force them. Because sometimes you get to a point where it's like, okay, I love this idea, but despite my love for the idea, I'm going to let it go because it's not working. It's about recognizing, okay, I'm just forcing this. It's not going to work. I'm going to move on and let the story start to tell itself. Go back to something more fundamental, which is just a whole bunch of trial and error. And even though I had so much fun making this world, it's not something I think that I can pull out again for like, I don't know, decades. It just took so much out of me.
That's understandable, Trajan.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are as well.
I'm glad I didn't.
You again.
Yep.
We were glad to have
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for
I'm still going to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Still grateful that you made these tours. They've been really amazing, man. Heck, I remember my first tour was the premiere of The Agent, and that was like blew my mind back then.
The Agent.
I like the agent.
Yeah.
Stepping off
Oh,
a
silly at times. I quite like it.
That was a funny little
Was
song.
that my
Matter of
first
fact, I met
tour?
you guys. Yeah, that was mine.
I ran The Agent for like a year almost. It took a while.
Yeah.
There's my
Took us quite a while to get the good ending for that one.
Freaking ciphers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, yeah.
Mine was a scavenger.
So I'm just going to bring this event to like a more of a formal close, and then just whoever wants to hang out and keep chatting can do so. But this
How about we
is
get a group
the end
photo for
of the tour group commentary. We'll take a group photo in just a second. So stick around for that group photo. But thank you very much, guys, for coming and listening. This is a very exclusive event. I'm not going to go through this again. So consider yourselves enlightened. You have all the insight I could think of for the prince.
You did an amazing
And,
job.
thank you for coming and for listening and for being travelers.
Well done, Trajan.
Let's take a group photo.
This is,
Thank you, Trajan, for
Amazing
giving us
job.
such an experience.
this is totally gotta be your magnum opus. So